Folks, we have made it into the winners finals. It's the Akron Zips taking on Sussy players for a chance at the grand finals to punch their tickets here and now. Hi, everyone. My name is Quinn, better known as Colorblind. Of course, as always, joined on the desk with War. And man, talk to me a little bit about this matchup that we have here cooked up.
Well, we've had a chance to see Sussy players play already, and of course we've been blessed with Akron, the sort of reigning champs from Act number 1, but both these teams with fairly dominant start to their day in the winners semifinals. Both these teams went 13-10 against OSU Gray and OSU Scarlet. So at this stage of the game, I don't really know who's favored because they're both off to hot starts on the day. It's all about how they're executing in this winners final, which is going to be a best of 3.
Yeah, no, you mentioned it. Best of 1s turn to best of 3s now. And let's go ahead and take a look at the best of 3 path. Our maps. It is going to start things off on Breeze. And Sussy players, why? Why do you do this to us? Nobody likes Breeze. Why? Anyways, Breeze will be the first map. We will go to Lotus, which is the Zips pick. And if we need a map number 3, we'll head over to Ascent. And I guess the best of 3 now ushers in a new level of tenacity, a new level of stamina that's going to be required between these two teams. And it's going to be interesting to see how that affects things potentially.
And these teams, definitely very experienced teams. They have a lot of times gone through this path, and they have a lot of times used these maps and utilized these compositions. So definitely know what's going to be thrown at it. But once you go into the fray, once you start brawling player to player, it's going to force you to make some switches, make some changes. And we've gotten to see the attacking side of things from Sussy players, but we have yet to see the Akron Zips, the 1 seed going into the tournament, take their turn on the defense.
Yeah, not only the 1 seed, but they are the former Acts champions as well, taking it to the Rise Knights. And they have a familiar face on the opposing side here. It's Noodle, who is looking for revenge over the Akron Zips. His former team, the Rise Knights, placed second in Act number 1, and definitely be looking to him to potentially light some new fire between Sussy players here and keep his team in check. But again, Akron, the best of the best, is going to be a tall task ahead of the Sussy players. It's the 1 and 2 seed taking each other on, and what better way to start things off than in the pistol round? I could think of a better map, but still, better things to think about here as we jump on into the pistol round on board with KDS.
And obviously, Breeze, a map that's been updated. We've seen a lot of changes to the way this map has been played. Obviously, a bit more defensive-sided onto now. It's all about how you're taking these angles and how you're playing.
And this is a mixy start to the map. You see players overlapping each other. Akron Esports tried to poke over towards mid, did not get a lot of information. Atrium lines them up and brings them down, rounding the corner, and that completely puts a thwarted push for the side of Sussy players. He'll find another with the shock dart, and just as quick as you can blink, Vesperial is the last player standing on the side of Sussy players, and the push, it's completely shut down.
Yeah, left towards mid, left towards his own devices, but going to be staring down Farrell on this angle, and with less HP, the high ground advantage, and the win is going to go to Farrell and the Akron Zips in this first round.
And the interesting thing, we didn't talk about it when it comes to the composition. Akron has a very aggressive one kind of queued up for us. I do believe it's a double duelist, double initiator composition out of them. The Jet and Reyna, and of course as well, the KO and the Sova pick with the Viper trying to act as that controller. Again, this is a very aggressive and a patently so aggressive team. It's going to be very exciting to see what they can bring out with a composition like this when matched against Sussy players.
Especially with these long angles on Breeze. Bugs can really do great things from Marshall, but an uncharacteristic and interesting initial from the player advantage, but still the gun disadvantage. So now Sussy players realizing they can maybe pull together or win this round. Usually on your save rounds against a almost fully bought Akron Zips, you're looking for just picks, just space wherever you can find it. But at this point in time, I think they're looking for a bit more. They realize that there's going to be some openings, some cracks in the Akron Zips defense. They're just looking to slip through them.
They're just looking to take whatever is fed to them. Again, as we mentioned, Akron is a pretty aggressive team when stacked up against the rest. So If you can catch them lacking a couple of times, that could be a huge sway point for the round, as you alluded to, though. Again, operating from that economic and artillery disadvantage as they make their way into that B point, and not a lot of resistance as you see all these players playing very far back for Akron, sending in some shock darts, just trying to connect on absolutely anything you can. But ultimately, the push will be enough to push them back, and now Akron in a spot where they're going to have to play the retake into this.
And this retake's very tough, especially when you have Sussy players just completely on the backside. Obviously, a lot of additions to the backside that makes it a bit easier to sort of hold through if you're on defense. But Sussy players to have it on offense, and that's the powerful part of it. Now, it's Feral. He's swung from both sides, and it's going to be Frosty who finally cleans that one up. And that was a massive round for Sussy players. You see the excitement, and you realize how impactful that round was. They won the round that they were saving on, and now Akron is in an economic deficit.
Yeah, and those are not rounds that you are supposed to win by any stretch of the imagination if you are Sussy players. It's a thrifty for a reason. And now they are in a really good spot in terms of where they could be in this point of the map. Akron Esports, again, sent into that economic pit to start things off, and this really turns the tables here, early stages of the map, as Sussy players now have a lot to work with, and again, just not going to send it too aggressively. Instead, deciding to play back in their spawn, wait for Akron to get aggressive, which it looks like Feral might potentially do in the Marshall. He will be dropped by Noodle, and again, early round, Sussy players finding one could be huge.
This discipline is so massive from Sussy players. It's just, they aren't giving anything. And the moment that Akron tries to strike, it's Noodle who's there. Noodle, the person who's played against Akron before, knows their cadence, is the one who's going for these massive shutdowns. Now it's all left on Selfie to sort of solo defend this A site.
Oh, and rounding the corner, he's going to be met with Scoob and the gang, and there you have Sussy players back-to-back rounds, and again, it's all off of the aggression from Akron. If Akron doesn't give them anything to work with, Sussy is going to have to completely change their approach. But so far, Akron just sticking to their guns, sticking to the patented aggression, now on even footing. Vandals and Phantoms all across the board here. Sussy players with an opportunity to really cement things with the downstretch of this map.
And the null command, already an opportunity for Noodle, for the Sussy players on this attack. It looks like they're going to be sending everybody onto the side. It's going to be a fast take from Sussy players, a complete change of pace, and a dash inwards. But Vortex shuts it down. Oh my gosh, Akron's defenses look so clean there.
Oh my goodness, that was like clockwork. Akron, nothing that you can do there if you are Sussy players, and comes down to Vaspiral. 1v5 for him, Vandal in hand, and not much else. As he makes his way slowly and steadily over towards that B point, you can almost just smell him. You are Akron in this spot. He's just not a lot of room to work with here. They are just Viper everything that he possibly can do, and eventually the kill will come through. There's not much you can do.
I mean, this Spike's just in this awkward choke position. It's effectively in limbo, or halfway to it, and that's where Sussy players are going to be left on that round. A flawless from the Akron Zips on a round where they had no means to have flawless. The null command was popped from Sussy players. The comm was made to go in, but the util wasn't even there from Akron Zips. They just cleaned it up gun on gun.
That was so good out of Akron. There's not much else that you could have done better than what they just did there. It was just an all-out mincemeat grinder. It's just nothing you can do if you're Sussy players. You still have the buys, you still have the Vandals. Vandals all across the board here. But now if you're Sussy players, you have to ask yourself, what are we going to do? Because that all-out attack did not seem to work, and Akron has kind of readjusted into this more defensive role that you would expect out of them. And they're just going to hold angles.
The knife on A didn't detect anything, but still no real movement for Sussy players until Noodle takes that strong angle. Gets the pick, but now they back off it. Now they're still going to keep waiting. They're letting Akron assess the situation. They're letting Akron decide to make rotates, and then they're going to act off of those.
Akron this time around is not going to bite on anything. Playing very defensive, very cool within their own. Still do have a player over towards A to contest. Sussy Players looks to try and gain that A control. Through main they go, setting up that wall, and now Salfi has the information to go. Luckily, his team will be able to rotate in time, playing very far back from the site, but Bugs will find one. Bugs with two. Salfi with another on the board, and oh, Sussy Players dropping down one by one like flies. Now put in an interesting spot where they're separated as well. Frosty coming in through mid, Vespero still over towards main, and just trying to find something to hold on to this round with, but two players around the corner will find the first, but does he anticipate the second is the question. Vespero going in with the plant. The Recon Bolt is going to detect Frosty, and Bugs will close the round. There you go. That's the way to get back into the mix of it.
A lot of excitement from the Akron Zips as they definitely have stepped right back into the mix of it. Made up for the loss that they had when they had the economic advantage and Sussy Players were on a save. Now Sussy Players, the economy is looking a bit slim. It's potentially going to have to be a teammate buying for Noodle, or maybe even a situation where he just doesn't buy. But yep, Frosty's going to step up, get that buy for his teammate. Or to see how Sussy Players look to adapt against this.
Yeah, it's a very important round for them to pick up because, again, they enter economic peril if they don't. You're starting to see a little bit of desperation out of them now trying to claim hoist to this middle point of the map. And you still have Akron. Now they're starting to get aggressive once again on the defensive side. And we've seen it kind of go and work against them thus far. And now the question is, with the momentum swinging back their way, can they use some of their patented aggression to continue to keep their foot on the gas pedal?
I will say one thing about Sussy Players, though. They are not afraid to just take their time, see if they can run out the clock, take these angles slow, and play with a lot of caution. Characteristically, their other opponents would be sort of showing aggression by now, showing a bit of presence by now, but Akron's just been so disciplined with it. Their repositions are so good, and finally, Noodle strikes the early pick on the Bugs.
Yeah, and we've seen those early picks go their way, but Farrell will respond in kind. Frosty gets dropped, and now again, having to reconsider. 36 seconds left on the board, though, and you're still in your own spawn. Sussy Players, you have to figure out where you want to take this spike, because Akron slowly but steadily are starting to find their way moved up towards the map. Forces wisely backing up, though, knowing the fact that this is going to be a B hit. They're dedicating that utility. Atrium finds his way from behind, will take the kill off onto Shamson. Gains Akron that much more control. 13 seconds of time ticks into red, and Sussy Players still haven't even made their way onto the point. Noodle will find the kill off onto Atrium, but again, with the time ticking away, this round will just about be sealed. You just can't let that happen if you're Sussy Players. You can't be that indecisive. You have to make a decisive play much earlier than what they tried to do.
But it's so hard to when Akron just doesn't give you anything. Akron just takes the space, and it's so hard for Sussy Players to really punish. Feels like they need an explosive play, but last time they went for that explosive play was on the null command round, and it just got completely denied, shut down onto that B site. So battle sort of going back and forth about what is truly the best thing to do in this situation. But Akron's defense, this Sova towards mid, has just been absolutely crucial in denying.
Truly is a game of chess that we are watching here, but now you start to see the Sussy Players making their way over towards this B site once again, trying to approach from multiple different angles. Versus continues to find the value from that positioning, and Atrium will find another on the board. That being said, Sussy Players will be able to respond in kind. 3v3. The spike does start to make its way down. Now the rotation is on from the spawn. Akron Esports trying to funnel their way into this B point as Salfi taking the point. Sending the shots in very far back are the Sussy Players playing, and Farrell will find the opening frag for the entry. You still have to rely on a player like Noodles, who won't be able to come up huge. Instead, it is Akron taking the round.
And Akron with a big round there. They deny the value out of the pit, and a little bit of disrespect shown on screen as Akron do make it up towards...
That's something.
Yeah, that is something. They do make it up towards round 5, and they are definitely feeling very good about that, because now Sussy Players have to make these economic decisions again. It's going to be sort of a buy for the next round from their team. Just going to save up this round, see what space they can make. They've obviously had some success on these rounds, so I definitely do not want to count them out in this situation. but it's going to be a lot harder, a lot taller tasks for the Sussy players.
Yeah, this is not going to be an easy round for them to take at all. A partial buy is just trying to grasp at whatever you possibly can. 3 ultimates online for Akron as well, so they could really command control of this map just through ultimates, but instead they're just going to run it straight down your throat. Multiple kills coming through, but that is why you have the Vandal in the hand of Noodle. Will eventually be dropped. Back and forth we go. Both teams picking up essential kills. Sussy players will find themselves with the artillery to continue and charge into this A site. Being said, we talked about the ultimate. Dedicating the Sova ultimate into the site, trying to catch a player lacking. Will get some decent damage off onto Vesperl, but will still get the spike down to 2v2.
And that damage is massive. Vesperl's so low, but it doesn't even matter. Finds the pick, and now it's all on Atrim. He's came up big for his team, currently leading them in kills. He's finds something massive here. A single shock dart would be enough to take out Vesperl. They don't know where the reposition is. Looking to clear out towards main, but does he know that both these players are pushed up? They are quite literally right around the corner, ready to swing off each other's contact, ready to play off each other, and the timing, the angle is just not going to be there. Atrim falls, and Sussy players find their third on yet another save.
Yeah, those save rounds have been going pretty well for them. Obviously, you don't want to be put in those rounds necessarily too often, but proving that, hey, when we are in those rounds, we can keep things going, we can keep alive. Now Akron back in the saddle again. Still have the credits necessary to get a full buy going here, so both teams will be jousting once again at the same level. Akron's still 3 ultimates online. Sussy players now as well to equal them out.
Really a lot of potential from both these teams going in. Presence towards A is going to be noted. It's going to pull multiple people from Akron slowly over, but yet another slow hit, yet another play for information from the Sussy players. They want to see if this is actually the site they want to take, and Akron is just being so disciplined with it. They're respecting the chance of a rotation, only somewhat pulling their teammates, but I think this 100 Fury is going to be enough to say, yes, this is most definitely going to be an A hit. This is most definitely going to take out Feral, Atrim, both players down.
Salfi, the lone player, waiting for his reinforcements to come in, practically begging for his guys to hit that rotation onto the site. They will do so in time, and the potential pincer could be in the cards here, but low HP on Salfi. Has to play this very, very carefully. All of Sussy players still alive and backed up, knowing that they don't have to play this too aggressive. Vorsis finding some information maybe through that Viper's wall, but will not get much else. Back and forth we go in the feed. Bugs and Salfi keeping this round alive for the side of Akron, sending the shots in. Bugs will not connect for much more, and Noodle will close the round with a nice 3-piece. Now within 1 of tying things up are Sussy players.
And one of tying things up, but also the operator definitely going to be online for Sussy player, and that's a massive factor on A site or B site. If you're setting up to play around Vesperl as this op player, you can do so much in these rounds, and you can see just how much focus they're giving towards Vesperl, towards setting them up in a good position. But despite that, KDS still doesn't have a gun. I hope he buys one. Oh no, he's just going to be going for the nice play this round.
Get out of my way.
Yeah, here we go. We get the Jet Kunai coming into the mix of this, and I'm excited to see that. Getting vertical, getting horizontal, getting active. Again, moving over towards this A site. Last time, Akron not applying a lot of pressure. It really didn't work in their favor as Sussy players just filed in 1 by 1, but this time Salfi will be able to shut down Noodle. Feral with another on the board, and KDS has to put the team on his back. Will do so with the kunai, absolutely chopping him up, turning him into sushi. Shamson with the plant. 3v3.
Oh, and KDS just peeking the angle, playing for the time, doing such a good job to create the presence. Shamson's put in such an awkward position, gets mollied off, but it doesn't matter. Frosty and Shamson just cleaning up that double operator shot on the side. It's just going to be massive.
That was so good, and now we are all tied up. Sussy players continuing to prove that that A site has its holes on the side of Akron, and they're going to have to figure out how to bat down that hatch because Sussy players look to be very confident moving into that point. Again, when you don't have a lot of success on that B site as well, you just kind of have to figure out what is going to work, and so far, so good. Should be interesting to see what the strategy is moving forward for Akron, though.
Looks like they're going to boost up. They're going to get their own operator online on the side of Pharaoh, holding down the A site. Fallen on the A site twice. So now Akron starting to see the pattern come through. They've got the information. Doesn't look like Sussy players are even near A. Caro Knife's going to be enough to indicate that. So now it's a slow play from both teams. And in a game that is a bit slower, it's going to favor these defender type players. And it's going to favor players with the op to sort of peek that angle. Finally, rep wall is going to be deployed. Drone's going to come in, try to get the information. They're going to find the operator, but first the operator is going to find Noodle.
That's a huge play out of Pharaoh to open things up. Sussy players will continue to make their way into the point. KDS will find the equalizer there. Frosty is so far pushed up in the early push of this site. He'll get some value out of it as well, as Pharaoh not expecting him to be that far played up. Salfi now has the information to go, but it's not going to matter as Frosty continues to wreak havoc on the point. Atrium will eventually shut him down, but the spike's still down. Akron Esports slowly and steadily making their way into the point. Vasperal will find the kill off onto Atrium, brings it down to just Vortis, who gets tagged up by the operator, stays alive. 1v1, and not expecting the high angle there as Sussy player is going to take the lead, and you see it. They are getting vocal there. Both of these teams face to face with one another on the big stage.
They are absolutely ecstatic. The lead has been given. And they're even dropping the operator off the map. They have their own operator in that tour de force. I know we love the tour de force colorblind. Probably one of our favorite ultimates in the game. Definitely a lot of presence online and a lot of ults coming up for the Sussy players. So if they can get an orb, if they can get anything going, Samson could be looking at this Viper pit potentially.
Not only that, Akron is in a very tough spot here, given the fact that their credits are definitely lacking in the last round before the swap as well. This is the perfect opportunity for Sussy players to really gain some momentum heading into the half. That Bog is holding strong, though. Finds 152. Not going to be able to get the snap onto the third, but still keeping the round alive. Pharaoh with the kunai popped is going to be the next line of defense. Will find the kills to go and completely shuts down Sussy players' push. So although the economics not necessarily in their favor, the round still continuing to go their way. Shamson will find an opening. Vespero trying to get the kill to even things up and really gain some presence into the site. So far, Akron holding strong.
Shamson still 1 kill away from Pit, though, which could be massive. He's just waiting. He could get the plant and get Pit online. That could be a game-changing ultimate, but they have to get to the site first. They have to find that breaching utility. That does come through. They get the information that that Sussy players are still going to be staying here. I'm so worried about the snake bite. I'm so worried about Atrium and Chamber player on the side of Sussy players. Both of them are so low, and they're just waiting for the aggression. They're waiting to find something anywhere, but they're just not finding it.
So good out of Akron to have the patience to not try and collapse onto this, knowing that you have 2 players on low HP as well. Forcing Sussy players to make the play first. Do they expect Salfi? Absolutely not. Shamson gets dropped before he can even get the spike down, and time is ticking away. Vaspiro has to do something, but he's not going to be able to do much as the spike will go down in the... No! It just barely misses the plant! Oh, that is absolutely tragic.
No way. That had to be like... half a second, less than a half a second, a millisecond, microsecond. I don't even know what that was. We were watching the timer go down. It just goes in the favor. I mean, still smiles on the side of Sussy players. They brought it to a 6-6 against Akron. Definitely a very strong start from both teams, but my God, colorblind. These maps are so close, and an even scoreline going into the second half has me so excited for not only this map, but the map we're guaranteed next and potentially even a third.
Oh yeah, no, between the 1 and 2 seed, it's gonna be close, and it could not be closer than this, 6-6. And I'm looking towards Akron here heading into this next swap because of the dual seeders as well. This is just patented agreement. When you see Sussy players really swarming from every which angle, Frosty will find the first to open things up and really forces Akron to back up ever so slightly. Spike will still go down. Sussy players, though, on every single angle that you could possibly guard for. It's going to be tough for Akron to hold.
And the unprecedented aggression from Sussy players is enough to make Akron just take a step back, split up a bit, ensure that they don't get crunched in on, absolutely capitalized on. Vaspero's gonna go straight through the smoke, and oh my gosh, they just clean up so well. The double swing onto sight to absolute perfection.
That is so good out of Aspero. You could not have written that up better for the Sussy players on that retake there, and they'll take that round and then some because they enter this next round. They obviously have the credit advantage here as well. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that as Akron see Feral buying up on that Marshall. We've seen him put that to work in the past. Still, not the spot that they wanted to find themselves in early.
Definitely not the spot any team wants to find themselves early. And if you remember back to when Akron was on the defender side, Sussy players actually managed to win this round out with this sort of half-buy awkward situation where they're not buying anything too much. So a lot of pressure here on Akron. They sort of need to show up here. Otherwise, could be lost cause, could be another Sussy players win.
Slow approach out of Akron here, down mid, just trying to gain that middle control. Anything that you can possibly get in a round like this. Obviously not slated to win it with the economic disadvantage, but trying to do some damage towards Sussy players and their economy, considering that. Feral very far pushed up, and Frosty sends the drone in. Not going to find a lot of information from that, though, unfortunately. Deciding whether he wants to hold mid or not, get that early peek going, and might have actually just spotted out the enemy jet.
Recon bolt's gonna come through. No find just yet. A lot of question marks in Sussy players' mind, but I think that's gonna be answered as Feral's the first one to strike on the side of Akron Zips. Quickly, the trade comes back through from Samson. They still don't know what this aggression is gonna be. Finally, some noise is made. The Viper wall is gonna be put up towards A site. That's gonna force Frosty sort of on this rotation position. And Samson doing such an excellent job of shutting down this aggression.
Trying to find their way in through mid. Shamson just continuing to rain hellfire, as is the rest of his squad. Salfie will find one. Vorse is with another, and Akron has found their way onto this point. They could get this spike down. You still have to deal with Frosty, though, coming in from behind, and it's a one-man band, at least for the time being, as he waits for his reinforcements to come in. The spike will go down. Still a tall task ahead for them to lock this down, especially with the low HP on Vorse. Akron Esports, the spike down. Sending the shots in. Salfie will be connected onto with the shock dart. Low HP. Frosty will finish the job, and Vorse is now in a 1v1. Will not be able to get that shot to go. And Sussy players will get the round. And the flex as well.
I mean, you gotta love to see that. They are having so much fun out here, and granted, they deserve to be. Obviously, a very close round on a round that they had the economic advantage, but still a round that they needed to take. So now Akron's gonna still be able to have their full buy, but if Sussy players manage to take out this round with just what they have at the moment, it's gonna be very, very dangerous for Akron Esports. It's gonna force a situation that they don't want to be in. So I'm really looking for the players on Akron Esports to step up and start showing out.
Yeah, no, you really need to take this round, especially given the fact that you have the advantage in terms of the artillery here if you are Akron. Vandals across the board compared to Sheriffs and Ghosts, and just not the type of guns that you would want if you are the Sussy players here. This could be a huge round for Akron. They just have to play it right in the slow and steady, methodical approach through mid to try and gain that map control. Seems to be the play here, knowing that Frosty is holding this middle angle.
They have a lot of control.
Timing there. Whew.
There.
A lot of control in this position. Smoke set up towards A at doors, so they can sort of walk forward. They're looking to take some presence towards the site. They're marking it out, seeing exactly what they can find, but Sussy players just aren't giving them anything. They don't have any reason to peek. It's just Sheriffs and one Guardian on the side of the Sussy players, so they're definitely playing it very, very slow. But this angle is going to be the question, and Feral proves the answer here, as KDS is now limited on the side, has the dash activated. But what can he do?
What can he do with nothing to go as well, given the KO coming in and using that utility to near perfection? Feral will find another. They know exactly where KDS is, will snuff him out, and it just comes down to one. Vaspiro, 1v5, turns to a 1v4, will find that first kill, but with the spike down and only 45 HP, Sova Drone is going to find him eventually as well. You know exactly where he is operating from. Akron just have to close this round and prevent any further economic damage from any kills. Just don't let up. Now the shot will ring through. You'll know exactly where he is. Picking up the Vandal would be a wise decision if he decided to save here potentially.
And only 45 HP. It's all to ask from Vespero. He's looking for the exit pick, potentially the exit frag, but noise is going to be made, and Farrell's just going to swing the angle. Oh, that was such an intense situation, because you'd think if he stayed on that angle, would he have been able to find Farrell, find multiple kills there? I don't know, Colorblind.
Yeah, no, a lot of questions there, but ultimately it ends in a decisive round win for the Akron Zips, and enter this next round, and everybody has those Vandals, has the operators online. So now this becomes a round of even footing once again. So far, it feels like Sussy players have had the rounds of even footing, but again, Akron coming off of a round win, looking to even the tides, 8 apiece.
Some interesting purchases out from the Sussy players. And Odin, as well as the operator, posted up onto that B site. Akron definitely showing a lot of respect to what the Sussy players have set up down towards mid. Sort of just waiting, biding their time, seeing exactly what they can find. This Viper wall on A is going to be another hard thing to pass through. Sussy players are going to go for the clear on mid. They realize they're not getting pressured from there, and now Noodle is in a great position to find some frags here and now. Looking through the wall, Flash is going to come in. That's going to hit everybody. Find is through, and trades are coming in.
This is so big for the Sussy players who have found their way onto this point once again. The defense out of them, it's just unparalleled here. Akron, not much that you can do as the entire push just fell at the seams. Sussy players finding another round, holding on to this lead and inching ever so close to that first map win. Again, Akron paying them the respect, but at some point that respect has to be contested.
You have to find some way to sort of beat your head against the Sussy players setup and find something big. But when you have such diversity in the loadouts that the Sussy players have, I mean, you have an Ares, you have an operator, you have so much to go through. And it's not set up in a predictable way either. The Sussy players are doing a great job of switching things up. I want to give credit to Frosty especially, somebody who I always finding in such an awkward position that just works out for him, finding multiple picks. For now, this is Hunter's Fury. That's going to be the scary part. Farrell just dodging it too. Luckily, that doesn't detect anything. He might think it's clear, but in reality, the Silver Drone's going to say otherwise.
Yeah, there's a lot of presence still here from Akron. They're not fully pushed up in this middle approach, but they're trying so desperately to gain some sort of control on this map. Very far spread apart as well, but it does look like they're gearing up for a B hit here. Trying to make their way and once again gain that control as Noodle could get very aggressive around this corner and enter his way into mid, but is denied by a very smart and well planned out Viper smoke. Now going to have to make his Stewie 2K approach into that middle point, but just as he's going to go and do that instead, Akron starting to make their way onto this B point. Atrium will find the opening kill, but is denied much more as Vespero continues to fry. Bugs will eventually find the pickup onto him. Atrium will get that plant down. It's going to be a 3v3 as Sussy players have no line of recourse to make the approach in with that wall up.
Bugs just tried to go aggressive for that operator, but it's a bit too little too late in that situation. Now, Sussy players with player advantage going into the site. Decay's setting in, but Noodle still finding it throughout that. Now, Forces with everything to do in this situation. Finds one, snake bites through, finds the second. Can he peek the angle? No! Noodle's gonna be the denial. The thing keeping Sussy players in and keeping them with the lead, and you can see the excitement on their side. The action is just growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, they are starting to feel themselves, and very different look on the side of the Akron Zips here, who have had a tough going on this attacker side for this map. It's just not been going their way outside of one round. Start to look towards the Sussy players again. So much momentum going their way. Look to continue to gain and garner that momentum. So they also have the credits advantageous towards their direction. The only thing Akron really has going for them is 5 ultimates online. You have to question how they can put those to use. The Jet ultimate does come online.
Same with the Tour de Force from the Sussy players as well. Noodle's going to find that, so they know where the knives are, and they're expecting the save already. So the main thing that they have to track for is where is this Blade Storm as Noodle slowly peeking the angle. He's going to find it. Bugs, a bit of a shot whiff there, but it's so hard when you're peeking the angle and you have the scope gun. So Noodle now still tucked into this corner. They don't know where the presence is just yet. Got to give credit to Farrell, though, for the Akron Esports. He's just walking up, ready to take the angle, looking down at Tour de Force and looking down KDS. It's going to be noted in this situation. Blade Storm activating, but only 2 kunais left. What can he do?
Ready to take charge here, but the presence detected is going to take away those kunai. Now you make your move over towards this B side again. Akron just cannot seem to find any openings whatsoever, whether it's Vespriel shutting you down. KDS with this potential angle here. The kills continue to go the way of the Sussy players. A flawless round in their column. Now just 2 rounds away from being 1 game away from a grand finals berth here. Akron Esports just haven't been able to find their footing whatsoever.
It's been a bit quieter on the Zip side. And obviously, something to be mentioned is this is the Sussy players' map pick. This is where they feel most comfortable with and where they're putting all their eggs in. But if you're speaking about eggs, I mean, all of Akron Esports' eggs are in this basket. This is their last buy. This is their last big opportunity. And Vesperal shutting it down before it even gets going.
Yeah, there's not much you can do from that point forward if you are Akron other than just send it into the point, going to try and make a mid to A approach here. You still have Noodle just creeping around ever so slowly in the point. We'll find a kill and keep the hopes alive for the Sussy players. With that being said, Akron will start to find some key kills in the mix of this. Brings it to a 2v2. Now, Spike is down. They will be able to recover, but the pincer being set up from the side of Sussy players. Also, the drone will get some early information. Farrell playing very, very close up. It's going to be a matter of whether he can catch Frosty with this play. It's going to be so huge. Shamson making his way in from the other side, and now you have to collapse onto this point if you are the Sussy players. Farrell will find the kill off on the Frosty, brings it just down to Shamson, a 1v2, making his way through the pit. Now just has to find these players. It's a tall task ahead of him, but they line up. One goes through. Can he center for the second? He can! And that will maybe just about do it. Match point looming for Sussy players in map number 1.
And you can see the excitement there. Sussy players up on their feet, and for good reason. Shamson's clutch right there. Absolutely masterful. He found the timing. He was exposed on the flank, but it didn't even matter. He was feeling confident. He took it to Akron, and he showed why he is such a dominant player. This is sort of the depth of the Sussy players roster. The fact that anybody could have those pop-off moments. Noodle even finding a way in between the entire Akron Zips team and making it so the plant couldn't go down for about 20-30 seconds more is just massive. They're all popping off in their own individual way, and now they're on match point.
Yeah, match point, and as you mentioned earlier, it's Akron's map as well, so this is just not going the way of Akron whatsoever, no matter how you cut it. 2 kills immediately in the feed. Down mid, Bugs just trying to make something happen here, but he is caught in between so much crossfire. Will manage to find himself out of the mix with some help from Forces, but still, you can just feel the momentum towards Sussy players here. It's going to be an A hit the later half of the round, but you still have to deal with Shamson, who is coming off of a really key clutch right around the corner. We'll find that first kill. 2 more players to deal with. They line up, but will not be able to get the second. Forces has to bring Salfie back into the mix. Will be able to do so, but that is going to deny the ability to make their way into the site off of that kill. The rotation is so quick. You're going to have to rely on the Viper's Pit. You're going to have to rely on Vorses, and he will not be enough in this moment. Sussy players, first map on the board, 1 map away from entering the grand finals.
And they did so good on that attack side. They found their rhythm so quickly. Look at the energy from this team. I mean, they're on their feet after every single round because of just how electric their playstyle is. It feels like when you need them most, people like Shamson, people like Frosty, people like basically their entire team is just always ready. But there is something to mention. After obviously a bit of time to refresh, we are going to be going into the Akron Zips map pick of Lotus, a 3-site map. The first one we're going to see today, and the first chance we see the Akron Zips sort of in this advantageous spot, we'll see how they can act on it.
Yeah, again, coming off of that map, you're going to need to reverse sweep the series. You're going to need to bring it to that map number 3. If you are Akron, you're going to need to bring it to Ascent. But that being said, a fantastic showing out of Sussy players in map number 1. It is not over until it is over, though. We're going to send it to a very quick break before we head into map number 2. Don't go anywhere. Here we go, folks. We have reached the fork in the road within the winners finals. Either Sussy players are going to punch their ticket in to the grand finals, or Akron Zips could potentially start the comeback here. And to start that comeback, they're going to have to take Lotus, which just so happens to be their map pick in this series. And it's going to be very interesting coming off of that Breeze map where we just saw them struggling to get their form, War.
Yeah, they definitely brought it on the defensive side, but on the attack side, it felt like Sussy or they definitely brought it on the defensive side, and then the Sussy players' attack was just like insane, incredible. Like they couldn't find a way to stop them in any means. So I want to see on a map like Lotus where it sort of allows the defenders to get a bit more aggressive, especially onto that ace side of things. In the A main control, being fought over every single round is going to be absolutely massive. But speaking of massive, the Euro pick from Vesperal. I haven't seen Euro in any sort of competitive scenes in a while. So I want to see exactly what he's trying to do with such an aggressive pick.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a very crafty pick, I think. It's going to be something that you look for, maybe catch a couple of the players off guard, and that is a very, very cool pick to have thrown into the mix of all of this. And as you said, Lotus, it's I believe it's our first 3-site map of the day as well, so that's going to be adding an extra layer to all of this. But that being said, again, Akron back against the wall here in the grand scheme of the series. They have to take this map. Otherwise, Sussy players will advance into the grand finals, and Akron will be off the back foot heading into the losers finals and facing the winner of the losers semis, that being OSU Gray or OSU Scarlet, talking in the green room war. And that's a matchup that we're both kind of excited for.
Yeah, all these matchups, these final 4 teams still in the bracket are all extremely talented and extremely deserving of this final prize pool. Remember, top 2 get prizing, which means whoever wins this match is guaranteed something of the $1,000 pot that will be distributed at the end to the top 2 teams. The Sussy players definitely want to show that they are deserving of it with a quick execute onto this C site.
Yeah, and that's going to put Akron in a weird spot with all these smokes going down as well. Yeoman really commanding control of the map here, giving a little bit of room for the Sussy players to work with, and the kills are going to continue to justify down main. 2 kills on the board, just leave Salfie and Farrell. Last 2 players standing here, trying to make the re-entrance into the site. Sending in those shots, back and forth we go, but it's just not going to be enough. Sussy players, they continue to carry that momentum, and again, you can just see it in their body language.
Yeah, they are feeling extremely confident. On the side of Akron, it's quiet. I mean, effectively, obviously it's a different map. It's a new mental going into it, but you've lost like 5-6 rounds in a row now, and now you're slated at the disadvantage onto a pistol round on defense. There's obviously a lot you can do on Lotus as a map to sort of gain yourself a bit extra positioning, a bit play for a couple picks, and maybe even gain some ultimate orbs on this save round for Akron, but it's still so hard.
Yeah, and this round is going to be ridiculously difficult for Akron to really do anything with. Again, in a round like this, you're just looking for any kills that you can possibly take, any amount of economic damage you can do, as Sussy players have just proven time and time again that this C point feels to be the strategy here. First kill on the board, as always, going the way of Vesperal, and completely opens up the site. Farrell has found himself with a Vandal in hand, will do some damage, but not enough. 2 kills going the way of the Akron Zips, all things considered, will put a dent in the Sussy players' economy, but pretty standard round.
extremely standard round. It's sort of what you'd expect of that second round in any game. But now we got to look back, see what do Sussy players have, because it seems like it's going to be multiple Vandals. Yes, 2 Vandals on the side of Sussy players. So this is definitely not a bad round for them to sort of command the lead, both in the hands of their duelists in Vesperal and KDS. I'm looking for Vesperal especially to get so aggressive onto this potential B-side push.
It just feels like with the momentum of the series, if Sussy players can find themselves a round win here, Akron just really is not going to have a lot of breathing room. You got to rely on those Vandals, and this is going to be a very aggressive push into the B point out of the side of Sussy players, but Atrium is going to lay down the pain. 2 kills on the board for him. Noodle just trying to find something there. And now how the turns have tabled. Just one player standing as Shamson has the spike in hand very luckily, but is being read through and through from the side of Akron. They know that he is making his way onto the C point. It's going to be a hard going. Horses will not even give him a chance. Akron finding the round.
Yeah, Horses with a great little positioning there. He's going to let his teammates build up the ultimates as well. And yeah, it's looking solid. I don't know where that smoke's going, but it could help. It could help sometimes, yeah.
Now again, Akron not willing to give up without a fight. They find their first round on the board, and Sussy players obviously were in that economic disadvantage and artillery disadvantage that we talked about very briefly there. Now everybody on even footing. Vandals and Phantoms across the board. Is Oprah Winfrey in the lobby right now because she is being very generous. Both of these teams in round number 4 here, both of these teams going to be on that even-keeled footing, and this is where things start for...
Finally, we get to see this fight over A main control. Nobody stepped up. A Vesperal with the TP in? What? He tries to create so much space. Tries to do so much. Nothing's going to come of it. Finally, Shamson with a single pick through. Shamson sort of reading into this well. Just waiting outside of this door. Don't want to give it a toggle yet. They don't know where the repositions have happened on the A site, and they're obviously concerned about players towards Tree, when in reality, there's nothing. Everybody on Akron Esports opting to play on the backside. They've sort of shifted their focus back a bit towards B, especially with this door open now, and obviously some concern has to be put on the entire team, but a TP through, just get a bit of information, tap the door as well, and now... call has been made. It's going to be a site hit onto the B site.
Yeah, this B hit is going to have to be very swift here. They will gain control of the site. Very interesting to see, though, that Viper lurk play that has been developing throughout the entire round. What value will that get? Vorses gets dropped as we say it. Noodle will find another, and Sussy players with the spike down. 4v2 situation here is now Atrium is tasked, making his way into the point. Has a little bit of help from Salfi on the other angle. There's going to be not much going there as he gets dropped. Salfi will fall as well. Shamson, 3 on the board in the round, will give Sussy players yet another. And Akron, again, just having trouble seemingly to chain together successive rounds thus far.
Yeah, Sussy players are doing really great with these successive rotations on top of other rotations, and they have such discipline when re-clearing. They just expected their spawn to be flanked. I don't know what gave Frosty the indication that, oh, we should look back towards our spawn because somebody could have lurked all the way from C, but the fact that he did is really what secured the round there for Sussy players. These rounds are definitely close to some extent, but Sussy players with the advantage coming into this one with the guns.
And it looks like they're going to try and make a C approach once again. We have seen what they can do with these C attacks, and it's just a matter of time until they send it in. And obviously that Omen Smoke is going to buy Akron a little bit of time here, and maybe even make the Sussy players reconsider what kind of approach they want. And that might be the wise decision, as that A site has been left completely and utterly wide open. It's only a matter of time until Sussy players find that out, make the call to head on over, and that's exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, and Vesperal has effectively cleared everything with this Euro-dimensional drift. It's going to find the information for the team, realize, okay, everybody's back. They're not even on the site, guys. We got the free plant coming through, and now it's going to come off. Seekers invested as well. Sort of a way to close down this round, especially when you have Atrium hitting his shots like he does.
Yeah, this is going to be a mixy mosh pit heading on in. And Akron just trying to get their way back into the mix of this. KDS will find 2. Atrium with another on the board, and that is the Yoru play coming up huge. 1 kill, back and forth we go. Akron trying to find their way in through main, but Shamson is proving that Obi-Wan wins every time against Anakin. Round going their way, and Sussy players just continuing to keep it going.
Akron, at this point in time, it's like, what can they do to reconsider? It's a question of, do you think a timeout should be called? Is it just a mental reset? Is it a different approach to the way that they are starting these rounds? It felt like their reads at the start were, okay, we're going to stay split up. We're going to wait for them to push in. But then the pushes were so quick from the Sussy players that they're like, okay, now we're going to try to quick rotate. Last round that cost them. It feels like they can do nothing wrong or nothing right at the moment. And as Vortis peeks that angle, he just gets traded out by KDS. Bugs still left on the site, the lone sentinel, but the util's been half destroyed at this point in time. What can you do?
Not much if you're Akron. All of your anticipatory plays are just blowing up in your face, and as Sussy players once again just seamlessly take their way into this C site, Akron thrust in the spot where they're going to have to play defensive retake, and just again, you see a lack of that patented aggression out of them because they're starting to play a little scared. They're scared of these angles. They don't know where Sussy players are playing from. So unpredictable are these players finally making their way into the point, but you're spotted out by Vaspearl. Atrium will find the kill off onto him, though, to even things out 4 apiece. You see Sussy players playing so far back. The showstopper will be thrown into the effect, and Bugs trying to go for the defuse, and he is sticking it. Will he get it? He will! In the Hellfire, stays alive. 4 HP and the round going the way of Akron. And that is what you need if you are them.
4 HP is quite possibly, I mean, you could say it could be 1 HP, but at the same time, that is 1 shot away from death. Even if it's through a wall, even if it's through some edge structure, that is as close as they can risk it. And it's still going to be close here. Akron's still not even on a full buy situation. They still have Stingers online, Guardians, Spectres. This isn't perfect by any means. Well, Sussy players still have exactly what they want.
Still have them right where they want them. If you're Akron, you just have to hope that something like that can generate a sliver of momentum. But early kills going the way of KDS, and the Sussy players indicate that that momentum is going to be quickly thwarted. Salphie has to back up as well. That A-long completely open for the taking here. Sussy players want to do so. Instead, they're going to wisely head on over to the C site, which once again is abandoned by the Akron players. And to abandon the C site almost seems criminal, given the fact that Sussy players have proven time and time again that that is their favorite site to attack on this map.
And they're not going to be able to pick up on this. They have no indication just far. And the flash also misses KDS, so they don't even know that they're in the backline. The turret's going to be enough to detect, but I think that's just going to pose more chaos, especially with the KJ lockdown invested in this situation too. It's so insurmountable on the side of the Akron Zips. You have 2 people flanking you, the site completely locked down, you don't know where to focus, nothing's been given to you for free, and Vespero's just in your spawn.
How has this happened the way that it has? Bugs will make things slightly more manageable, all things considered. Another kill on the board, so 2 kills. The time is ticking away, and they have to get this defuse to go at some point or another. Salphie will even things up, but now it comes down to this. Vaspearl versus Bugs, and the time is going to be that additive player. And again, just giving up that C site is wild to me.
I mean, you could consider they just had to rotate for that heal to get their whole team up to full HP, but at the same time, I mean, effectively just giving it up for free, and this has happened in consecutive rounds, but at the same time, they're losing the duels towards A main. You see from Akron Zips, they're putting in a blind towards A main, they're putting in a nade towards A main, they're flashing A main as well, they're putting so much presence there, and they're either going to lose the trade on that point, or they're going to take the space and just do nothing with it. They're eventually giving it up. I want to see a bit more proactive activity from them, but the moment they take A main, they're just jiggle peeking, giving it up. And this time it's a hit towards C.
Yeah, what else is new? On an economic situation that Akron is in, you might as well take advantage of your favorite site. Forces will drop, and It basically gives control of the site. Bugs, the last player in, is going to deep, taken out. Shamson with the plant coming through, and their own spawn is the Akron Esports players just trying to pull the rotation from C Long. Vaspero with the flick to take Salfie out. One more to go, and Atrium will fall. And Sussy players, I mean, it's just an unstoppable force, and the immovable object has not shown up just yet.
And the read is there from Akron Zips to realize that they can get this flank off. The KJ util is being put up post the plant. But at the same time, they're doing it on a round where they don't have guns. They don't have any way to really act on it. This round, they have guns, but I'm sure Sussy players' adaptations are just going to be happening beforehand. And you can argue, okay, it's a bit more of an attacker-sided map because the attackers are able to dictate that pace, especially if A main control isn't being fought over every single round. And there's 3 sites that the attackers can hit on. But at the same time, you're just getting ultimates online over and over and over again. Showstopper is definitely an option. They're going to send it in. KDS straight over, looking for the connection. Forces shuts that down.
And this is very good out of Akron now, knowing that they would like to apply their pressure over towards C, putting 3 players flush towards the site. It's going to eventually shut the Sussy players down, and now that they don't have the C site in their operations here, they're going to try and make it over towards B, which again is so close to the C site that you already have the players rotated in, watching every single angle, preventing the plant. Frosty will find Salfie around the corner, not able to connect on the shots though, is going to continue to just make this round a tough going for the Sussy players, who are now just doing the world around strat all the way over towards the A site, being met with the opposition of Feral. This has been so well played out by Akron, so unbelievably good. Shamson and Noodle find 2, and oh no, you did not. Oh, Shamson, are you kidding me?
That was disgusting. I mean, you can talk about the amount of discipline Akron has shown this round in not giving up sites until they know where the commit's happening. And then from the shadows from Shamson, absolute juke, absolute denial, but Selfie still has something to say about it. Now dropped down to a sliver of HP, and unfortunately, Sky can't heal herself. So now Shamson left in the insurmountable position. You've seen him in this exact spot before. Are they going to realize? Are they going to clear it? What can Shamson do?
1v2, finds the first, knows where the second is coming in, but just not able to connect on the shots. And Akron will take the 2v1, will take their 3rd round on the board with the defuse, and they so desperately needed this. Again, the play out of Shamson, though, a heads-up play there with the rotation over towards the C site, using the ultimate, unfortunately does not work out. Now gives maybe some life for the Akron Zips.
Yeah, and probably their 2 biggest ultimates now online. Viper's Pit and the Lockdown. An opportunity for life in this Akron Zips roster. You sort of need these to be used in the best way possible to deny sites. You can take advantage of Sussy players playing out time. They just can't be going down early here, and they can't let Vaspero sort of control this pace, but he's just going to go in. He's going to take it by himself. Dimensional Drifts gives him so much information, so much space to play with. It's just, when is he going to activate? When is he going to decide to push into this?
Looks like he's going to activate in towards that B site. Is going to have 2 players of opposition over there. 2 players over towards A, flushed as well for Akron. It looks like the B hit might be the strategy here as they funnel on through, in through the main door and into the B site. And this is going to be a mixy mosh pit between these 2 teams. Frosty with the first on the board will gain some room within the site for that plant to go down. KDS catches Feral, lacking another kill on the board there. But that being said, you have Akron popping the Defender Killjoy ultimate. That is going to force the Sussy players to back out of this point, gives up the site control for the time being. Now it's just a matter of fortifying with the kills, which is seemingly a tough task. Easier said than done thus far, as Shamson finds another rise. Noodle will get the 3rd. And the Sussy players are back in the driver's seat once again.
We got to talk about that lockdown positioning. It was placed so far back into the Akron Zips spawn. It felt like the Sussy players knew that was going to happen, and they could just back out a little bit. They obviously showed it the respect it deserved, but at the same time, they could just get back on the site so quickly. And at that point in time, they'd already spread themselves around from the main angle, from the A angle, from the C angle, that the Akron Zips were just flushed in from one angle. They couldn't really do anything. It was effectively pinned against them.
Yeah, it was not necessarily what you wanted to see out of them, and Now into the save round here for Akron. The Sussy players looking to just send it through. Farrell will still bring out the showstopper, will be denied much else other than that, though. Now they just run it down your throat. The Sussy players continue to wreak havoc in this round, and there's just not much that you can do if you are Akron in this spot.
And Noodle just has their number right now. Pops the Seekers. Effectively, they know exactly where these two players are. They know that they have the plant for free. And look at Frosty, just in the spawn. Again, they're pinned. Frosty with the angle. They know where both are. It's just, can he hit the head taps? Finds one, a bit of chip damage onto the other. Bugs with everything to do. Nothing really to do. It picks up a Vandal, but it's not going to have enough when their entire team is just pressuring in on you, pinching in on you. It feels like desperation plays, and Akron Zips are just struggling to find that control that they need to have, especially on a map like Lotus, especially when they can be getting a bit more aggressive on this defensive side. They just can't seem to find it right now.
Yeah, and again, when you have a player like Frosty who just, every time we watch him play, he's in some weird spot that seemingly just works. I don't know how he does it, but he has found himself in the back lines countless times of every single team that we have seen him up against here today. And he just continues to do it. There's not much of a recourse there, and now Sussy players, this final round before the swap, are looking to just send it straight down B, assert their authority once more on the attacker side. Atrium will be clocked in the face, stunned out of his boots, and just continues to get utility pelted straight at him. Can completely open the sight for the Sussy players to get that plant down. Farrell will find one, but will immediately be traded out by Vaspero. You still have Atrium here, but you have to wait for Akron players to rotate on in, and that's going to make it even harder with the Killjoy ultimate coming into play.
You also have to wait in this lockdown, but Atrium's just going to decide to disrespect it. Actually, no, has the TP out. That's such good awareness to realize that he can get out without the detain. And now the Sussy players, they're on the back foot. They've already used up both ultimates. It's a question of, can they get on the site? Swarm grenades placed. Respect given. Frosty finds one. 2v2 situation. Frosty looking for the second. Finds it. Does he even read into the Omen's reposition? Yes, he does. Atrium on the other side. Frosty with 3. Oh my god. This man is unstoppable.
He is another breed. Look at that. That is... what else can you say? That is Frosty in his purest form there. And the Sussy players up 9-3. Heading into the swap. I'm not going to say it, War. I'm not going to say it.
I don't even know if we can say it in this situation.
You really can't. The way things have been playing out, you really can't.
Everybody in the Sussy players has more double-digit kills. It's just, they're all popping off. It's just beautiful on all respects, and they're so ready to adapt to whatever happens. They're so flexible with their game plan, too. They have such a large plan of attack. It's just, it's incredible on all sides. Akron, I don't know what you can do in this situation.
All starts with the pistol round for them. They have to pick something up here and now, and looks like the initial approach will be completely scattered out throughout the map, actually, as you have 2 players over towards C, 2 players over towards B, and a player lurking over towards A. Akron is completely separated from one another. Luckily, this map is pretty small, so those rotations should be easy to funnel in back together, but it's a different approach than what we saw out of the Sussy players on the attacker side.
But Akron definitely looking to find some tempo. Players on either side of Dora right now, making the consideration, taking note of the information they've been given. They do have a solid lurk up on all 3 sites. They want to find some type of information. They want Sussy players to give them something. Maybe that flash is going to be enough to sort of persuade them away from this B site. They're ready to toggle the door, but the moment they do, Akron players are going to take note. They're going to expect the C hit, and the KJ setup's already there.
Just again, the lack of aggression out of Akron is so weird to see, just given the fact that this is a very aggressive team in the past, and just feels like they're playing scared at this point. That being said, though, now making their way into that C point. Actually, no, you can't. There's not a lot of room to operate with as all the players on this C point. Atrium will find 2, though, to open things up. That will create some room for the Sussy players who have to make their way back onto this point. Spike going down, sending the shots in is Samson just trying to connect onto something here, but it's going to be very difficult when the Viper is using her utility to perfection. 2v2 turns into a 2v1, turns into a 2v none though, as Vaspero, look at this man cook.
He is 1000% feeling himself at this moment. Like, that moment, I didn't even see the start of his perspective, but the end of that was absolutely incredible. Finds 4, and that's just what the Sussy players do at some points in time. They have their own individual moments, but it's all sort of enabled by the team. The team sort of pushes in, and one of them just finds the heads of the opponents. At this point in time, it was Vasperal, and at this point in time, for the Akron Zips, it's a question of, okay, now we have to buy, now we have to force into the Sussy players who have done such a good job of controlling this defense in round 1.
Yeah, and now Akron finding themselves in a spot where even though they lost that round, they're going to have to buy up. They have the Stingers, they have a singular Spectre in hand, and this is very dominating out of the Sussy players who are just going to make their way through A. Unfortunately, not going to be met with much resistance. Instead, Akron is making the B hit, and they basically have site control here. 2 players, though, from the Sussy players are going to find themselves in these smokes, trying to make their way back in on the retake. The blind goes through, and it's going to be huge. Checkerboard in the feed. It's going to leave it a 3v3. Denies the spike plant.
Here.
Now Sussy players backing off of this point with that spike down, with the damage done, and their authority asserted. Just going to leave them to their devices.
Brill did such a good job of playing ahead of it, taking spawn, but do they know that the lurk's coming through? I think they assume that Sussy players are going to try to push through towards the backside. Plant's not even down yet. I didn't even realize that. Gives a chance for denial for Frosty, but they don't find it. Now it's all on KDS. 2v1 situation. He's going to manage to find one. That's the relief, the sigh of relief that Akron Zips need in that round. They forced up when they shouldn't have, but it managed to pay out in their favor.
Yeah, and that's a very important force up there from them, because now they have the opportunity to gain a little bit of momentum here. They're going to have the guns. They're going to have the advantage in this round over the Sussy players who are going to be resorted to those pistols. And this, again, is the opening that Akron has theoretically been looking for through the entire game. Now it's just a matter of whether they can apply that pressure and whether they can take advantage.
And it is on the back of the Akron Zips. They're the attackers on this side. But an early ultimate coming out. Dimensional Drift is going to go into the backline. It's effectively cleared C and cleared B. They know that everybody's at A. It's been exposed at this point in time. Vasperal gets shut down, but is the information enough where the Sussy players still have some sort of advantage?
It's going to be very hard to find an advantage with the artillery in mind, but Frosty is going to make it work, at least for the time being. The first kill on the board. Noodle will find another, but checkered in the feed by 2 more. It just comes down to Noodle. You blink, and the round is over. 2 rounds going the way of the Akron Zips, and now you can start to breathe just a little bit if you are them. Got to keep the pressure mounting, though. Sussy players will now have the artillery needed to contend.
That was great pressure from the Akron Zips, even though the Sussy players' strategy was effectively to counter them in that situation. It still really worked out in the favor of the Akron Zips. But it's a question of these gun rounds. Sussy players have been so good at converting these both on their attack and on their defenses on previous rounds. So we'll have to see what they can put up here.
The aggression out of the Sussy players over towards that A-long once again, just want to instill their will and tell Akron we are here. Akron is not there. Akron is heading over towards that B point, slow and steady. Spike's still not picked up, though, just waiting for the Viper to regroup with them. And once they get that information, only 1 player from the Sussy players flushed over towards that B point. Forces potential to get a lot of information here, War.
Noodle with a good read here, using the utility very sparingly, but just enough to get the information. It looks like the Akron's read is not to go to this A site. Instead, they're going to push through the C site. But remember, Frosty has been holding this area down throughout the entire time. He can be so proficient with this judge. He's going to get detected. Skydog's there. And Forces with the spam straight through the point. The blind comes through too. That's going to hit 3-4 players. Force them all into the corner. Vasperal's looking to capitalize on it. So is Shamson. But a trade comes in. And now 3v3 situation.
Both teams exchanging blows onto the point, but ultimately Akron is granted the opportunity to get this spike down. Atrium, though, going to peek out, be met with heavy resistance from the side of the Sussy players who now have that player personnel advantage. Forces holding on to dear life. Salfi, though, is coming up absolutely huge. 2 kills on the board. Forces with the 3rd. And that is the Akron Zips round that they so desperately needed for some momentum.
can see it on their faces. Still cool, calm, collected. Akron Zips not losing their focus, not getting too ahead of themselves, realizing that they're still down. They're giving themselves more and more advantages the more rounds that they win. Now, Sussy players yet again going to be forced into a save with Frosty, the only person with a judge. The rest of their team stacking up on the Sheriff Light shield. Potential to get picks here, but I'm looking for Akron Zips to also convert this round, similar to the way they have before.
This is going to be a very important round for them. They cannot let their foot off the gas, even though the economic disadvantage is palpable from the Sussy players. You just cannot let them gain an inch, because if they gain an inch, they'll take a mile. That is exactly what is happening here. Akron holding strong, 2 kills on the board to kick the round off, and now that A site completely and utterly wide open. The KJ trying to make the rotation, but is going to be met with heavy attacker pressure. Is not going to have a lot to work with on their side of things. Bugs will get that plant down, and Akron are positioned perfectly.
And clearing that space is so good. The question is, did they hear Frosty slip down here? Frosty could do some serious damage. All of Akron effectively having their backs to him, but the flash is going to identify there's somebody down at this position. So Frosty has his back against the wall. Oh, we get it blown up.
Yeah, no, not much that you can do there if you are Frosty. 2 players standing for the Sussy players, trying to do something, if anything, in this round. At least maybe take a kill away, do some economic damage to the Akron Esports players. It's just going to be hard goings, though, when you have everything going directly against you. Noodles will not be able to find anything. Shamson will be dropped as well. A flawless round there on the Akron Zips, who now have new life on Lotus.
And I love what they're doing. They're letting Sussy players play for those aggressive plays and just punishing them for it. Every turn that the Sussy players go down, the Akron Zips are just there. And you can see, this is even going to prompt a Sussy player's timeout. Akron has been so dominant these past 4 rounds, getting their ultimates online now, too. They have multiple that they can use on this next round. So the Sussy players really have to take in consideration what the Akron Zips have been doing, what's been working well, and how they can sort of put their foot on the brakes a little bit, slow down, and play to what they know.
Yeah, again, you just have to find your footing if you are the Sussy players. They've lost in the last 3 rounds, but that's just because Akron has seemingly found their footing. We talked about Akron. We said that, hey, this team is a lot better than what they are putting up. And now they've finally found their rhythm. They finally found what makes them great once again, and they are gelling on all cylinders here. Now Sussy players are going to have to figure out a way to contend with that, because once Akron gets it going, they are an unstoppable force.
And you can't let Akron get it going this late in the game, because they're bringing it this far, and they have the lockdown, the Viper's Pit online. They can do some massive destruction. They can bring it this round specifically. You can see Frosty opting towards that Odin pick for the weaponry. Very characteristic of the way he likes to play.
Here we go. This round has so much riding on it, especially coming out of that timeout. Sussy players trying to regain their momentum. Akron Esports trying to keep it rolling and dealing. Over towards this B site we go. Bugs sending in some early utility, trying to catch anything. Will find that KJ turret and down it. And has the ultimate online, could completely open up this site. Will do exactly that. The Sussy players are going to have to respect that ultimate placement. That is going to be very tough to operate with. Vespero will find one, though. Atrium, the lurk player, downed over towards the A site. The interesting thing here is Akron hasn't really capitalized on it. They're instead making their way over towards the A site.
And I love this from Akron. It's just Vespero's effectively read into it by this point in time, but Akron's fakes so far have worked out to perfection. The only disadvantage is they're sending Seekers into the pit. If Viper goes down here, it could be game over. Vespero playing for that specific player, looking to find it, finds an angle on one, but not gonna be able to trade it out. Gets a little bit too overzealous with the way he's playing. KDS still popping off in the back line. Trades come through, 2v2 situation. Bugs left to his own devices, pushed back. Gonna toggle the door here. And luckily, Viper still up. It's all basically on the back of horses. The sooner he goes down, the less likely the Akron Zips are going to be to win this game. But Bugs showing up massive, and it's all in the back of Noodle. And no, going to be shut down by Bugs. And there it is. There's the excitement I want to see from Akron Zips.
Yeah, this is a nice change of pace for them. This has been a fantastic last couple of rounds out of them once again. You cannot say enough, though, out of that play to dedicate 2 ultimates, one over towards the complete opposite side of the map, and then have enough gusto to make the rotation despite using that ultimate, and it worked to absolute perfection, and Sussy players had no clue what was going on whatsoever out of Akron. Crafty as it gets, and now they have that credit advantage. Now they have the artillery advantage, and everything is going up Akron.
Akron, some obvious momentum shifting in their favor. You'd expect them to convert around like this, but with the Sussy players being so proactive the way they act, you should never be too sure. The reads from Akron are so good. They are doing this characteristic bait and switch. They fake presence towards one side and go the other one. This time, actually going to be Frosty, the one left up towards the site. Vortex going to shut that down quickly. And now, the plan's going to come through. Sussy players only with 4 to retake, but Shamson with a quick pick coming through. Almost catches a second. Forces, keeps his life in the game. Finds another one as well. So now...
Forces is just chopping them up one by one. And when he stops, Bugs will continue. Flawless round there.
Feels like the life has been injected back into Akron's veins. You can see definitely a bit quieter on the side of Sussy players. They're locking in a bit more. They're realizing, okay, let's make it so we didn't celebrate too soon, guys. But when in doubt, the Sussy players, they're going back to what they love. They're going back to what they know. An operator for Vesperal. And Frosty with that judge pick that he has done so well with.
Yeah, that judge, he's gotten so active with it at points. And if he can get 1 or 2 taps, it could very well swing their way. And they desperately need this round to regain some momentum, keep things from getting too out of control here. Akron dedicating the showstopper in the early round here, and that's going to completely clear out this B site, allow for that plant to come through. Now Sussy players, they're not willing to give up too much. That's Frosty with the first kill on the board. Southie will find the exchange, though. Shuts down that judge, but the kills continue to matriculate the way of Akron. 2 players standing for Sussy players, and there is just not much that you can find in a spot like this. Shamson will be the last one standing, and making me eat my words. 3 kills from him to close the round and keep things in the way of the Sussy players.
Oh my gosh. Shamson showing up when he needs to. First player to break 20 in this match, and he is definitely deserving of it. Currently, just putting up a performance for the Sussy players, and you got to talk about it. It's not even individual, too. He's gotten 12 assists at the moment. He's looking so proficient on this map, and definitely ready to close it out. The saving grace for Akron here, even though we reach 2 points away from match point for Sussy players, they do still have this lockdown. Frosty, or Bugs, has been so good at building it up, even on the defensive side, or the attacking side.
Sussy players as well, not going to have a full buy here. Instead, 2 Guardians in their hands, so definitely not out of the course for Akron just yet to keep themselves in the mix of this, but as we said, Sussy players, such a key round going their way there. If they can chain this one, it could very well be the end for the Akron Zips. Sussy players so close to punching their tickets into the grand finals here and now on map number 2. Akron not wanting to make that first mistake. Slow and steady.
But Sussy players need to show this respect. Paranoia comes through, doesn't find anything just yet, and the dog is going to act as hindrance. Suns up Atrim, going to buy a bit more time. You can see the Sussy players sort of been conditioned in this situation to expect a rotation, to expect something to come the other way, so they're not pulling their players until this Killjoy lockdown is invested. Now they're going to have everybody onwards towards the extremities. A trade comes in. It's a good trade in the favor of Sussy players, even with a lockdown, they're still able to find one. Now Sussy players on the back, steering the plant, noting ending site's officially going to be C, and they have this defender lockdown, which could be massive, forcing them off.
Akron getting very aggressive over towards Vesperal, who finds the first, finds the second, finds the third. Vesperal, are you kidding me? What was that? Completely turns the round on its head, and that KJ ultimate is going to open the site up. Nothing you can do if you are Bugs. Oh, what a masterclass there. Will find an exit frag to go, but will eventually be exited himself. Match point for the Sussy players who look to punch their tickets in to the grand finals here and now on map number 2. If you are the Akron Zips, your back is against the wall. You're going to have to give it your all.
And Vesperal's really making that Guardian look exactly like a Vandal. He's like, yeah, this gun, it may cost about 500 credits less, but there's no difference. If it's in my hands, I can do some big things with it. This next round is a massive one. Akron Zips on the brink, getting sent into the loser's bracket. Akron definitely looking to do whatever he can to dive deep into the playbook to see what they can set up. It's going to be a quick hit towards this A site. Uncharacteristic of final rounds, but they're showing that they're still confident. They're showing that they still have a shot here. And the pit's invested as well. Frosty, the one person who has a chance to take this out. What's he going to expect where this plant's going to go down, though?
First line of defense will be the judge in the hand of Frosty. What can he do in this spot? Enters the pit and gets the frag. Salfie will soon get the exchange. That's going to delay the spike to go down as the Sussy players start to make their rotation into the point. Still have that Viper's pit to contest with here. If you are the Sussy players, you have to figure out where she lurks. KDS now making his way into the point, but getting downed immediately by Feral. Now Noodle trying to contest, ring around the Rosie with Feral. The peaks are coming through. Both players going back and forth. Noodle will find the kill, but Vorsis will get downed. Just comes down to Noodle. The time is ticking away. He has to play this so carefully. 1 HP in the decay. Finds the first, but the shorty kill will keep the hopes of the Akron Zips alive.
And that Viper's pit, really the X factor on that round specifically. The coverage that it had throughout all of A, nobody could really enter from either the front side or the back side, and it basically covered where the defenders were sort of funneling through, made them only go through one angle. An excellent play by the Akron Zips. They still need to do this 2 more times. This time, Sussy players on a save. They're showing a bit of respect, and they might even be saving up for an operator on the final round for Vesperal, potentially. They want to end it here. Even though they don't have the strongest of guns, they still want to make something big happen.
Yeah, it's looking like a lot of pressure straight through mid. 2 kills going their way immediately out the round. And can they connect? It's all in the feed, and it all comes down to Frosty in the matter of moments. Some good economic damage done towards the Akron Esports players, though, but it just comes down to Frosty, and this is going to have to be a Herculean round out of him. Once again, in no man's land, he finds himself and heading over towards that A site. First line of defense, lone line of defense. Going in for the shorty play, you gotta respect it, but it's not going to do much. So now here we have it. Either the Sussy players punch their tickets to the grand finals here and now, or we go to overtime.
You can see Vesperal, operator in hand. Hasn't really shown it much on this defensive side. We'll have to see whether or not Akron Zips realizes it. And the second thing is, are they going to respect it when it comes through? Vesperal's been so clinical on these first bloods throughout every single round. And they're looking to sack him up towards this C side. They're looking to send him in and onwards. It's a question of where Akron Zips going to look to go. They're going to hit the B side here. They're 1 kill away from Bugs's lockdown, and that could be the ult that wins them the game. On the other side, Sussy players with the showstopper will be massive if they're able to connect something there.
Akron Esports trying to be felt every step of the way, all across the map, sending in utility on basically every single site here and now. Looks like the play could be over towards the A site, which is something that the Sussy players are going to at least anticipate to some degree. 3 players positioned over here. The Akron players are just having to give that respect that is much deserved and earned. Not going to go for the push just yet. Instead, back to their own spawn they go.
50 seconds. Still not time as a major worry, but definitely a concern that starts to begin slipping into the Akron Zips head. Why not go back to old trusty? The KJ lockdown is going to be placed down. There's nothing Sussy players can really do to sort of disrupt this at this point in time. A couple trades do come through, though. A TP inwards from the shadows invested. See what they can find.
Spike goes down, and here we go. Rounding the corner here, it comes down to this in many respects. Vespero will find the kill off onto Bugs, and now that is going to completely set the assault in from the Sussy players. Showstopper is dedicated to the moment. Vespero going for the defuse here, and now not even going to let it go. Round the corner, KDS will find one, sees another through the smoke as well. Decides to peek it out, but will not be able to connect. Now a 2v2 turns into a 2v1, as it all comes down to Vorsis to hold on hope. Spike is ticking away, but he has to get the kills to justify. Vespero will drop. Will he be able to connect on the shots? That is the question. He's just delaying time, and he calls it overtime. We go.
And look at the excitement from Akron Zips. I think that they're right across from each other. They see each other, and they see the electric excitement that Sussy players were giving throughout the start of these rounds. And now they're like, hey, don't celebrate too soon. Don't ever let your guard down against us, because colorblind, we are going into overtime. It's been a banger of a match so far. We've seen very solid attacker rounds from both teams. This game is going to be determined by who can put up the best defense first, who can make a stop first. Right now it's Akron Zips. We're going to try their best to do that.
Ball in the Zips court here, and take a look at that map. You see so much pressure. Guess where? The C point. What else? How else would the Sussy players want to have it? Early indication, early utility being dedicated over towards that C long point as well. Still do have some players spread across the map for them, but all things considered, Akron is definitely going to be dedicating at least some players over towards C, knowing the tendencies of the Sussy players.
And the fact that the KJ and the Viper both set up on C for the Akron Zips, it's going to leave a little bit less of a defensive read. And Akron, their form is just impeccable right now. They aren't giving anything. A tap of a door, a bit of util on either site. And they're finally thinking, this is like counterplay on top of counterplay. Sussy players have conditioned them to say, oh, they always rotate. A tap of the door is going to be enough. And then Vespero's just going to TP right back because he's on Euro. They have 5 people on this site. Akron Zips finally read into it, but the plant's already going to come through. Atrim holding on to this paranoia. Going to blind a bit of the teammate, but also blind some opponents as well. Jumping on the site. It's going to be Bugs, who's leading the charge here. ADS with the trade back.
2v3 situation on the point. Sussy players trying to hold on to this plant. It's going to come down to Frosty, a 1v2, but Atrium will call the round. And Akron will find the defensive round there, find the retake. They could find the map after this as well.
And now Sussy players with literally everything to do. This ball has been taken out of their court. They have had such little control in the previous defensive rounds. If you're Akron, you got to be feeling extraordinarily good about this situation because of how proficient they are in the attack. I love the play from Sussy players, though, in that last round. They sort of baited the A-site presence. They did something that would usually indicate it's fully an A push, and they switched it back to C. It just wasn't enough. Bugs was just able to jump in there, top his team on the leaderboard, and show why they are deserving to go on to the winners finals.
This is so wild out of the Sussy players. How aggressive can you get in what could be the final round, trying to instill their will and trying to say that we are here. Get some early information and gets out of there wisely so. You have the KJ so far pushed up as well. This is a wild look out of the Sussy players.
Time to jump.
It's a question of what's going to happen here. All the util has been invested, and I think they've taken note of Vespero in this awkward position. Is he going to be able to get out? Luckily, doesn't get ticked up. Doesn't really trade anything back for his time, though. And now all 5 players from Akron Zips are going to be pushing into this A site, but it's going to be met by all 5 players from the Sussy players. The map could be decided here and now. Noodle, KDS, their positioning is going to matter the most. Atrim's the first one to find a pick, though. Ubak does
this positioning. KDS not able to find the second there. That completely opens the site, and now they just have to funnel on in. Vespero, the lone player of defense, and you have the lurk play here, which could be the deciding factor from behind.
Trapped in. put in the most awkward position. Samson has to come up massive, and he does. He finds 2 for his trouble now. 2v2 situation, but it's a judge on the side of Frosty. So it's really just on the back of Vesperal. But he's going to find it with a frenzy, though. A 1v1 situation. Vesperal turns the corner, and they're going to take a defensive round. You can hear them saying, sit down, Akron Esports. It is not over yet.
It is not over until it is over. We go into double overtime, 13-13. Both of these teams so desperately want this. Akron holding on to life here and now, cannot lose this map unless they enter those lower finals. And the Sussy players, they so desperately want to close this. They want to push into the grand finals. And now on the attacker side, they go once again. And that pressure early on, looking like it's going to be over towards C.
Over towards C. A lot of pressure given towards C. This is characteristic start for Sussy players, but they've been playing it so versatile that if you're Akron Esports, you can't predict what they're going to do. They could be jumping on site, but Fortis has this read. Going to get traded out by KDS as he jumps on site. On the other side of things, Bugs with the Odin ready to spray out wherever the plant's going to be. And most of Akron Esports is going to respect this. Plant information is going to be given. Spray is going to come through from the Odin. Nothing committed just yet, though.
Akron, the way that they're playing this, they're trying to get their setup in time, and that Odin is buying them so much in that regard. Completely denies the ability to get that spike down. Instead, forces the Sussy players to really try and look to fortify this point. Bugs is going to line him up and bring him down one by one. They drop. Shamson will be able to delay the disaster, but still player personnel disadvantage the way of the Sussy players. That spike still not down, will eventually be dropped down. Noodle, first kill on the board. Still needs to find 2 more in a 1v2, but Farrell will call the round, will get the defuse to go, and once again, the Akron Zips 1 round away from taking Lotus.
And the pressure sort of mounting on the Sussy players again and again. It's defender rounds being won, and we know these teams both characteristically better on attack. We saw how the Sussy players switched up their strategy last round. They sort of took it down A main, saw if they can get any picks. Nothing really came of it, but they definitely want to show some aggression here, show that they're not one to be overlooked. And Vesperal, with this last cannon play, operator in hand, out towards that C site. It's a characteristic play, but in overtime, will Akron Zip see it coming?
That's a big question here. We enter what could be, once again, the final round. Match point again for Akron. They weren't able to close last time by the thinnest of margins. Can they do it this time and bring us into a map number 3? Bring us to Ascent. Keep their hopes alive for a grand finals berth. Very split play. 2 players dedicated over towards B. 2 players dedicated outside over towards A. 1 player over towards C. Just trying to get any information. Let the Sussy players make any wrong step possible.
This is so smart from the Akron Zips. They realized the aggression that was being shown. But now, it's a pixel peek from Vesperal. It's what can he do? He's the lone defender. Maybe getting some indication that it's going to be going somewhere else. Still holding on to the angle, though. Still showing a lot of discipline. Is the peek going to come through, though? Bugs wants it. And Vesperal trades it out. Early advantage towards Sussy players, but that's not where the hit is. It's all going to be on the side of A. It's all going to be on Noodle. What can he find here? Atrim looking. Paranoia gets sent in, but Noodle's one to make first contact on the A side, too. Finds 1, finds 2. This is looking absolutely impossible for the Akron Zips at this point in time. Especially when they're so low, concussed up, all trapped into a corner. They're flashed in as well. And now all of Sussy players looking to wrap around, looking to surround, looking to swarm, looking to bide their time.
Atrium needs to put the team on his back here, and now he has Salphy as a bait, but it's not going to matter as Noodle with the spray transfer, the former, keeps the hopes alive. We move into triple overtime. Neither of these teams willing to give up an inch, partner.
This is going to be going, I mean, the distance. And you think it's going more than the distance at this point. We might be already off the cliff. I don't know what's happening at this point. It's a bumpy ride, and these teams are making it even more chaotic. Coming into this overtime, you expected, oh, every team's just going to win their attack side, and it's going to be whoever wins defense first. No. All these teams have won their defensive side, but they all definitely have the capability of winning their attack. A lot of presence shown towards A, the Sussy players. bring an early A push this time, and this is uncharacteristic of them. We'll have to see what they can put up here.
It's going to be Sussy, the first line of defense, backed up by Farrell. Will send in the blind. Is not going to connect on much there. Still, lots of presence down A long from the side of the Sussy players. Still do have a lurk player over towards that B site as well, so they're not fully committed over towards this A site. Frosty with the lurk will find the kill off onto Atrium, and Vorse is trying to send some shots in to get the trade, but is going to be denied.
Look at the amount
now the Sussy players on the rotation over towards B.
Yeah, Frosty just created all that space for his team. They're going to be able to get the plant down onto the B side as well. Paint Shell and Blind be able to follow up onto Vorses. Noodle gets the pick. It's trending in the favor of the Sussy players. This could be the first attack side won in overtime. And now with only one player left, it's all in the back of Farrell. You got to think this is too much to ask for him, and it most definitely is. Sussy players taking their first lead in overtime.
And now on to match point they go. We've seen Akron on match point twice. They have failed to capitalize. Can the Sussy players be the team that does it and punch their ticket into the grand finals here and now? They already let Akron back into the mix of this once. Will they let it happen again? Is the question on everyone's mind right now.
And it's such a mind game for Akron too. They've seen a lot of presence towards C. So they've been trending more towards A site, B site hits, but Vesperol reading into that. They're putting the operator up on this A site. They're putting in so much pressure there. Paint Shell's going to come through as well. They're already looking for the fight. But meanwhile, Akron Zips jumping on the B site. The fight on A may come first.
Spike going down over towards that B site. Not necessarily something the Sussy players anticipated by any stretch of the imagination. We do have pincer play potentially in the cards here. Sussy, though, opening up with the first kill on the board. Drops Noodle down 6 feet under. Now you're starting to feel the pressure from the Sussy players. The question is whether they can get any kills to justify or not. Checkerboard in the feed, but KDS will find 2, but it will ultimately come down to Vaspiro, who has to hit his operator shots, has to hit the right click, switches onto the Vandal, is blinded out, and it comes down to this, a 1v1, Sussy versus Vaspiro. He's going to look for the defuse here with the time being of the essence. He has to get the kill. He will not. Sussy keeps the hopes of the Akron Zips alive. And we go into a fourth overtime between these two teams, neither of them wanting to give up an inch.
Here.
Each other are doing so well. They're realizing the plays and they're shaping counter plays around it. It is so smart on both sides. I don't know what it's even going to come down to at this point, because the Akron Zips figured out what the Sussy players were doing. They're playing a bit more aggressive and they're just like shifting it back. They're just holding a very nice defense. Every time they go on defense, they're not giving anything up. Either way this goes, I could see either as the Sussy players definitely looking towards the C side execute again.
Yeah, once again, it just seems to be their bread and butter. They sent in that Yoro clone, is trying to gain any information whatsoever, hopes someone shoots at it, but being said, Sussy players not going to find themselves in that C point just yet. Dedicated a lot of utility, got the rotation. You have a player rotating over towards the A site, trying to gain some map positioning there. It's going to be Frosty. Who else but him? He drops to Farrell, and that is such a key opening kill from the side of Akron. Now the Sussy players need to find their way into this A point some way, somehow. Down a player.
Akron's able to play around this. Farrell's not detected either. Nothing really indicating where it's going to go. And finally, a bit of util shown onto this B site. Champs is going to jump in. The positioning is a bit awkward. The side of every player. 3v3 situation. Showstopper's online for KDS, though. That could be the difference maker as he finds another.
Shamson in this very tight corner here. Do they anticipate it? He baited out the teleport. They don't. Sussy will drop, as will Vorses. And once again, the Sussy players on match point.
I love the dynamic between both these teams. It's electric. It's fun. Every time one of them gets the lead, they look over to the others and they're like, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, we will not let you have this. But it's so back and forth between both teams. And you think by round 32, most Valorant games would be over. these two, I mean, they're talented. Colorblind, we could be going the distance, and I've been the distance with you before. It's always electric, but this one might be the best.
I mean, it's the 1 and 2 seed of the tournament here. What else can we expect out of these squads? Both of them not willing to give up without a fight. Akron now on the attacker side, trying to take a page out of the Sussy player's book, make it over towards this C point, where there is a severe lack of personnel from the side of Sussy players. So much utility in the early round being dedicated here. Frosty finds himself in a very crafty spot with the Odin in hand, could get active. Spike is going to be going down, as is the spray. Farrell will find the kill off onto him, denies any value out of that. But just buys his team enough time to hit the rotation into the point. 4v5 turns into a 3v5. Vorsis drops one. Atrium finds another. Sussy players back against the wall in this round. Could we be going to a 5th overtime? As Shamson, the lone player that can deny that, will not be able to. Akron on the attacker side are flawless. We go into a 5th overtime.
A 5th overtime between these teams. I don't even know what else to say. They're all pulling out all the stops. They're so perfectly even on every regard of the game. All the players are between 20 and 30 kills. There's nobody who's really sort of letting the team down in any way. It's all perfection on all ends. All these players have had their clutch situations. It's just about who can stand the last of time. When you're getting onto round 33, round 34, it's a game of fatigue. It's wondering, okay, our playbook is this big. We know how they've been playing. Can we predict what they're going to do? Can we get a better read on them? The read for Sussy's players is going to be on to the C side again. Force has been so good at dealing with this as well, but it's picks on all sides. Akron Esports looking so well, and now they force Sussy players in such an awkward position. Samson finds one, but no, Akron Esports are going to be able to turn up a very quick round, and sometimes that's just how it goes.
Now Akron, their 3rd match point scenario. Can they close it here? Can they bring us into Ascent? Or will the Sussy players stay alive on Lotus and bring us into a 6th overtime? Partner, what is going on?
At the same time, it's like,
this is ridiculous. This is awesome.
The chance that we could watch this potentially 5-6 more times, depending on how the bracket goes, is this moment's insane. But the fact that we can get this more often is crazy. If Akron ends up winning this, it's gonna happen again potentially. Vespero with a quick TP, bit of aggression on the A side. That's the power of Euro. Euro instantly repositioned towards C. And I love this from Sussy. They got a pick, and they're not giving up the space. They're not giving any control to Akron. They do not want to give them a chance to dictate the pace.
Very slow and methodical out the side of both equations here. Both teams not wanting to be the one to make the first mistake. Akron arguably did make it with the first kill on the board, but Sussy players not going to want to match them in that regard. Noodle will send out the blind, and there we go with the swing, but the swing is denied. Noodle and KDS drop. And Sussy players down in personnel. Now they have to hit the rotation over towards that A site. Not much presence over there. Does Akron anticipate this, though? That is the question. As they maybe decide to make their way into this B point, and that would be an all-out assault. As Frosty will find one, will eventually be dropped. Still, player personnel advantage the way of Akron as they make their way on into the site. Spiral from above, Shamson from below, trying to hit his shots. Shamson keeps it alive. We go to a 6th overtime. Are you kidding me?
Oh, what was that? What was that? I don't even know what to say. Shamson versus Spiral, the back against the wall. The plant comes through. They hear the noise. They both swing, and that spray transfer from Shamson, absolutely insane. From 1 head to 2 heads to 3 heads, he takes them all down. And we're in it again. Overtime number 6. I'm losing count.
I believe it is overtime number 6, assuming I haven't lost my count here. 17-17 into round number 36. We go on Lotus. Oh, lordy lord. This is something else. That being said, though, you have Sussy players on the attacker side dedicating a lot of utility over towards this C point. Did not work that well last time, though. Could see them maybe make a B hit instead.
Oh, but Akron's just reading straight into this. KJ setups here, and Bugs with 1st and 2nd pick there. So now Sussy players on the back foot don't really have any room to act with. They're now pinned onwards towards this B site. Both on A and C, the holds are still strong. There's really no right option for them. They're trapped in a situation. What can they do?
That is a big question here. The Sussy players are going to need to claw their way back into this in terms of personnel, whereas Akron can just let them come to them. Both teams slow and steady, not wanting to make the next mistake because the next mistake could spell the end for either one. Now Sussy players, though, with the time ticking away, are going to have to make their way into this point, but the enemy KJ will find the ultimate, will put it online. Atrium lying in wait in the smoke. And we have an Akron Zips match point again.
I think this is the 4th time, if at that point this even matters. I mean, it's back and forth. No matter who takes the lead first, it's attack, defend. It's what can they do? Selfie? Maybe joking around a bit with the Odin. At this point in time, it's whatever you can do to keep that mental in check. Make sure that your team is always operating the best they can. Frosty's still going for these judge plays, too.
And they have been working to some degree at the very least. It should be interesting to see if they will continue to work. But Akron, full send down mid, full send into B. They want to end it here and now, bring it into Ascent for a map number 3 in this series. To do that, though, they're going to have to get past this map number 2. The bomb will be going down on this B point. Salfie with the plant.
Satchel out.
KDS trying to send in some satchels, trying to get anything to go his squad's way. Peeking in every which angle we go. Atrium with the first kill on the board takes KDS out of the equation. Bugs 2 players around the corner will be decided, and kills matriculating the way of Akron Esports. Is this it? Could this be the round that brings us into map number 3? Vespiro coming through the smoke will be dropped. Shamson once again the last player standing in between a rock and a hard place, and Akron holds on in overtime. We go to Ascent.
And they all jump to their feet there. The final moments are going to close it out, 19-17. I didn't think I'd be saying that scoreline this early on into the tournament, but all right, we've tied up the series. It's crazy that is just for the tie of the series, but we are still going on to Ascent. These teams are still going to face off against each other at least one more time.
At least one more time, and if these 2 teams make it into the grand finals, I mean, this is a good indication of what we can expect. 19-17. Are you kidding me? Neither of these teams wanted to give it up. I will say, though, given the fact that it was the Zips pick, the fact that the Sussy players played it so close is potentially an indication of what we could see out of them down the stretch here, especially with it being their pick on Ascent.
Yeah, they're pick on Ascent, but obviously a couple bans before that, so more of a considered decider map in this case. Ascent, a very standard map that gets played in most tournaments, so these teams definitely a lot of experience. It's one of the oldest maps, and it's one of the maps that they need to really show up on, show that throughout the test of time, they can reign true on this map. And honestly, Colorblind, I don't even know which way that map is going to go. I can't even think to fathom what could happen.
Yeah, no, there's so much up in the air here. Both of these teams tied at 1 apiece. Winner of Ascent punches their tickets into the grand finals, but we're going to go ahead and send it to a very quick break before we head into map number 3. Do not go anywhere, though, because if you just saw that, why would you want to miss any more action? Hope everyone got their refreshments and snacks refilled during that break, because if there's any indication based on our last map of how things are going to go from this point forward, it's going to be a long, long rest of the night. That being said, coming off of the back foot of a 19-17 victory, the Zips keep their hopes alive, and we move into map number 3. The Sussy players pick Ascent, and it really comes down to this, War.
I'm gonna be honest, Colorblind. I mean, I had my popcorn after last match, but like I've gotten like 3 or 4 barrels, just in case. Like we had to import some in from the grocery store, and now we're ready. Now we are ready.
Are you sure? How are the refreshments? How are the refreshments?
Oh, feeling good. It's feeling solid, and I think the refreshment comes from the gameplay, in my opinion.
Yeah, thirst is quenched from this gameplay. That makes sense, actually. No, but jumping into Ascent here, I mean, both of these squads back and forth in terms of the series to bring us to this point. And I mean, you look at both sides, energized as ever, especially coming off of a 19-17. That's 8 overtimes, right?
I mean, I can't do the math. Caster's notoriously bad at math, but at the same time, I mean, I think the players definitely know. The players are definitely keeping themselves energized. Apparently, the side of Sussy players was doing push-ups in between, so they're definitely staying ready. They're staying excited.
Now, that makes sense. They've got a couple of units on that side of the equation. But that being said, it all comes down to this. Winner of this map will punch their tickets in to the grand final. Still a lot of Valorant action to be played here today. Loser of this will go down into that losers final. Still some hopes to make it into the grand finals, but you'll have to go through one of the OSU squads. Currently going the way of OSU Scarlet 1-0. Let's not stall. Let's jump on into the action. It's Akron Esports taking on the Sussy players.
And this match is the match that everybody has their eyes on, the focus of everything, because whoever wins this is guaranteed at least second place, guaranteed at least a bite of this prize pool. But knowing how good these teams are, I wouldn't be surprised if it went the way of both these teams in the end. The team who loses this comes in through the semifinals and rematch potentially at the end of everything. We'll have to see as this event is kicking off.
Would not be surprising at all, and not surprising to see the aggression here out of the Sussy players early on, heading on over towards that A site, but I guess warded at the very least for the time being by Salfie and Farrell combining for 3. Shamson will find another in the wreckage, but still very, very tough for the Sussy players to try and operate from. Is Aspiral on one end, Shamson on the other will find the kill to go, but still a lot more room to work with here. It's a 1v2 situation with 21 HP. The door is gone. Have the spike in hand. It's a tall task still ahead for Shamson.
Recon dart does miss. The door is completely destroyed, so Shamson can't really do anything here. Just waiting out the time. Potentially going to make it seem like he went towards B, but in reality, he's just sitting up on this A site. And to be fair, Akron Zips wouldn't know better in this situation. They're just deception here. The smoke's put down. He's not going to go for the plant, though. He's going to sit within it. He wants to find one of these plays before he goes for the plant situation. Oh. He finds one. This is going to be big. Now, the clock is what matters in this situation. 10 seconds left. He's going to have to commit to the plant. He's going to have to play a bit of time.
Bugs, though, getting very aggressive with the Frenzy in hand. Will get the plant down in the nick of time. The Frenzy still laying Hellfire down. Will get the dink, but Shamson not enough HP to stay alive there, and the Akron Zips will hold.
And the headshot makes you think for a second, because we've seen so many of those situations where a headshot from Shamson is just game over for any enemy. Luckily, for the side of the Akron Zips, it's just a classic. Can't do that much damage, especially when you're full HP on the side of Bugs. So now, Akron Zips with a bit of a lead on this map, and I want to take a second to talk about the composition. Akron Zips playing the meta comp of Ascent, this standard 5 agents that are always played by every team, where, well, Sussy players, they have some elements of it, but they're picking up the chamber, they're picking up the raise, they're putting their own unique spin on it. So we'll have to see, obviously, in games like this, well, the comp you play isn't always indicating how good you do, but it's going to tell you a lot about how these players are going to look to approach the map.
Something we can expect out of Sussy players is for them to get a little bit crafty, so it's not a surprise at all to see them pull out a comp like this. That being said, though, Akron holding strong on all fronts thus far, have that advantage in terms of the artillery as well entering this round. This should be a round that they are able to take with quite some ease. For Sussy players, again, it's either trying to get a couple of kills, a couple of exits to go your way, do some economic damage early on to Akron. Pulling out a Thrifty. The slow and methodical approach over towards B seems to be the strat, though.
On the discipline from Akron is just immaculate here. They do not want to give any close angles because low-tier guns are favored on those angles. So now, the explosion happens towards site. Vesperal's actually the first one to find a pick, though. But Noodle drops extremely low, and Atrum comes up with 2. Bugs with a second. Usually don't expect 2 people sitting back in that corner. So now the Sussy players spike in. Basically limbo. Bugs is going to nano swarm it off as well. Shamson's holding the angle, goes for the head tap, barely misses there.
Denied the head tap, looking for some help from Frosty as well. Still has a player to deal with. Back sight, Shamson will find the first. Still 3 more players to deal with. Just not a lot that you can do in that spot. 2 players taking the way of Sussy players, but the round going the way of the Akron Zips there, up 2-0.
Still definitely not a bad round from the Sussy players. Found 2 heads during that fray, so definitely going to be a bit of damage and a bit of an advantage they've set themselves up. Now that Akron's on their bonus round and Sussy players have the full buy. Vandals across the board, only 1 player on light shields. They're looking solid to close this one out.
Real good here. And again, as you said, it's going to see that full buy come out of the Sussy players here. All Vandals, all across the board. This is their opportunity to get back into the mix of this before we enter that even footing that we talk about time and time again. Feral getting very aggressive, though, as is the rest of the Akron squad pushed over towards A. See a player rotating over towards mid, but for Sussy players, there's no one home at A. Everybody over pushed towards B, despite even rotating over towards the side as well. The only player that can really contest this is the KJ on the Akron Esports side of things, and smokes will prevent the Sussy players from making the push in, at least for the time being.
Sussy players are doing an amazing job of just baiting out this utility, though, making certain presence. Now, Feral just basically has nothing. Hugs on basically half the kit. He's going to be able to find a quick pick. Now they're going to reinforce. Paranoia comes through. Now, these Akron Zips are just waiting. Or is Bo's going to take this angle? Is he going to peek out? Is he going to try to get a bit overzealous? He's going to dodge and weave through. The angle's been spotted, though, and now he's in a very rough spot.
This is just a wild round the way the positioning of the map has completely played out because Akron getting so aggressive over towards the middle side of the map. Frosty will find that kill to go. Off onto Bugs, giving player personnel advantage back into an even court here. Feral, though, will find the exchange off onto Frosty, and back and forth we go in the feed. As the Sussy players make their way finally onto this B point, will be able to fortify with those smokes. You have Akron waiting on the outskirts of this B point. You have the Sussy players all set up, all ready to go.
And they're all trapped within this backside area. I mean, obviously you got one behind boxes. I think that knife's going to be enough information to let them know, yeah, nobody's going to be playing off the site right now. All players are on. It doesn't really matter when Shams is here to find these picks. Still holding into a good position and great triple face from Sussy players. They're going to get around on the board. Very important one as well.
Very important, as you said. And now we head into the even footing that we talked about. Round number 4. Real opportunity for both of these squads to size each other up on Ascent here. All Vandals all across the board, and this becomes a very important round to set the tone. Akron still with the lead in hand. Sussy players coming off of that last round with a little bit of momentum geared their way. A little bit of credits as well in their back pocket.
It's a lot in their back pocket here, but slow start from the Sussy players. 2 players are actually going to tank the scan towards A site, so they can look to potentially rotate out towards the B site now that Akron Esports seems to be drifting that way. It's a very good deception setup for the Sussy players, and a lot that they can sort of threaten here, especially with Shamson having From the Shadows online. He can basically put anywhere on. Going to pull towards this A side of things, but definitely a very slow approach on all fronts.
They do pull towards this A site, which is looking like they will. They will be met with quite a lot of resistance. 3 Akron players positioned over towards this site, 2 of which trying to lurk more over towards that middle point. Be able to rotate in very, very quickly. Vorses with some key information. The first player spotted around the corner. Does he anticipate or know how many players are waiting in wait there? Location will reveal him. That being said, the smokes will hold strong for the side of the Akron Esports players, preventing Sussy players from getting in without getting scathed. Salfie with 2, Feral with another. Dropping like flies are the Sussy players as Frosty becomes the lone player standing.
And at this point in time, Frosty, you got to be looking for a save. Don't want to let the damage come in. A flawless for Akron Esports. Definitely a very scary thing to worry about. A boost to their morale, so checking corners, but I think this Vandal's just going to be kept towards the next round.
Smart decision to do so as well. A flawless round out of Akron. Really held that defense down impeccably there, and there's not much else that you could really ask for out of them as they retain that very important round. Now Sussy players have to figure out what they want to do with their economy. Theoretically could buy up to some degree. Looks like they will be saving. Looks like they will be bringing the sheriffs out. Holding on to that Vandal, of course, is Frosty. Be interested to see if he delegates it to someone else or holds on to it himself.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Hero Vandal is a very important factor in rounds that you could look to swing back. You can deal so much damage if you're just able to hold on to it. But for now, it's a split on both sides. But Sussy players, with this initial push, no command is invested. But I don't think anybody knows. There's only 2 players on this side of things. Both are going to be shut down. All the pressure is given up on the A site, and it looks like A is going to be where the plant's going to go down. Sussy players with an amazing fake out. They've had success with this before in 3v4 situations, but this time it's no guns on their side. It's a team of 5 running in for Akron and a null command online for Akron Esports as well.
So good out of Sussy players, but again, they're going to have a tough time trying to hold this down past that spike plant. It's going to be a Herculean effort required here if they want to take it. Vorsis just setting shots in down below, connects onto Frosty. Shamson will drop as well. It comes down to Vaspero, who finds that first kill, and hold on. First kill will go. Farrell will find the second, though, to respond in kind. The defuse will come through, and Akron able to easily collapse onto that point, holding on to the lead and adding to it.
And that's a big round for Akron. Definitely like their strategy. Even though they ended up giving up sight, they realized, okay, they don't have Vandals. We have the luxury of all swarming in. Sussy players keep going for these creative plays. I really like the way that they sort of have Akron Esports really having to consider what they have to do. Because if you're showing presence, if you're giving all indication that you're on one site, everybody's going to rotate. But with Sussy players, that doesn't really mean anything because it could easily be a fake with the way they play their util.
Yeah, no, they're definitely keeping Akron on their toes here every single round. Although Akron has taken them, they've not necessarily been the easiest to take in terms of the mental mind games of where these players are going to play from. Now the Sussy players, they have the Vandals, they have the utility, and the Sova drone is going to at the very least get the information onto where Farrell is. Not anticipating bugs, will get one, but KDS will respond in kind. Farrell able to get out of there with his life, getting away from those nades, all the darts, all the shocks, everything. Keeping his hopes alive, 4v4. Now turn our attention over towards that A side. Sussy players trying to mid it to A approach.
Adrian's doing a good job of holding onto this position. Recon Bolt's going to detect at least 2 players there. Doesn't know the locations just yet. Dodges the shock dart. Now holding onto this position. Players still don't know whether or not Adrian's giving this up or not. Guns are going to be transferred. 3v3 situation. Selfie looking to flash on for the team. Going to hold off on it for a second. Nade comes through first. Flash comes in. Another flash should set up as well. This one's going to blind again. Not going to find anything. And null command on the back of Akron Esports, seeing what they can find with it.
Spike is down, but not a lot of utility that Sussy players can realistically use, given the fact that that ultimate being dedicated onto the point. Bunch of high ground players versus a bunch of low ground players. They drop, and it comes down to this 1v1. Selfie has the aim, has the play to go. Akron, hold on.
And Samson usually is so clutch in those situations, but I mean, you can't ask him to do more there. Selfie, absolutely electric throughout this first game. Has the operator back for his teammates. Gonna do the heroic thing and hand that off to Farrell, somebody who has been extremely dominant with it. But I gotta give props to Selfie. This match, he's really found his rhythm on KO and is feeling himself heavily. 3.0 KD. Obviously, that's not going to hold throughout the entire game. I don't expect it to, but it's been a good job and a big catalyst towards Akron Esports, not only having this lead, but having all their ultimates online.
Yeah, as you said, ultimates all across the board online for Akron. They could have that KJ ultimate lone dedicated to this map, and they could very well take the round off of that again alone. Sussy players going to dedicate the showstopper as well as Tour de Force being online, just trying to throw things at the wall, see what will stick. Noodle sticks Farrell in the head with the Sheriff and opens the site up. Spike goes down, and now the Sussy players have site control. How long will they be able to hold on to it is the question, especially with the KJ ultimate being dedicated into this point. You have to back up if you are the Sussy players. Make sure that you are not caught into that. It is so well placed, and it allows Salfi to get on into the point. It's going to push the Sussy players so far back. Just have to provide that cover fire, have to provide that smoke, and hold on, because the spike defuse will come through, and Akron will go up 6-1. The carnage is palpable.
That was an absolute bloodbath after the spike had already been defused for about 5-6 seconds, but that's sometimes just how those games go when you have an ultimate like the lockdown that gets built up to that speed. You really just have to give it to the respect it deserves, back away from it for the time being, and sort of play into the time the map has. But when they're forced off the site by the Akron Esports, the team that has guns, that has every advantage in their favor, it's so hard. But now, Sussy players back with weapons, and they've definitely had some good opportunities to prove themselves here with them. It's all about how this initial push is going to come through.
Oh, and here we go. A crafty angle there from Bugs. The swing goes. Trying to go for the second, but Frosty will find a kill. Now Frosty trying to dedicate his ultimate and will find the kill off onto Atrium, and everybody on the side of Akron dropping to the ground. Farrell, the last player standing, will find the first kill off onto Vesperal, but still has to retake this point with the spike going down. It's going to be a tall task up ahead of him. Luckily, the door stays open here. Trying to make the push on in, but right to his right, you have Noodle, another player lying in wait below. This crossfire setup is not looking good.
Operator just can't clear that crossfire. Like, at that point in time, there's nothing you can do. It's just too oppressive, and there's probably a consideration of at least a save in that situation, but it's so tough when it's such an awkward position. You don't want to invest the Blade Storm. You want to hold on to whatever you can, especially because now Akron Esports, despite having some good rounds, they're a little bit pressed for money coming up on this next round. Farrell's able to grab back the Operator, but at the same time, 50 credits. If he loses this round, if Akron Esports gets on the back foot, it could give Sussy players a lot of momentum.
Yeah, this round becomes very important for Akron. Luckily, they have 3 ultimates in their back pocket that they could use. Farrell, though, is going to be shut off by that Omen smoke. Has to play back a little bit. Gives credence to that middle approach from the Sussy players. Also, have a lot of presence over towards that B site. Starting to see Akron maybe give up some room there as well. This mid to B approach is going to be huge out of KDS, who's leading the charge. Finds that information, sends in the nade. Will connect on for a little bit of chip damage as Vesperal finds the first onto the point, and now they are rolling on in. Atrium waiting in, lying in wait in the backfield of this point. Bugs and him will find one apiece. Still the carnage, it continues as Frosty finds another, evened out 3 apiece. Vesperal continues to pick it up for the Sussy players. 2 players standing. Omen rotation is going to be huge. The A site completely and utterly wide open. Gives room for the spike to go down as the Sussy players have it locked in.
Vesperal gives the check to Atrium. Now Bugs left in for very insurmountable position. Vesperal's even walking on this. He's not afraid. He's potentially even going to poke it up with an op. And Bugs now thinking, okay, the economy is not the best. If they can disrupt the Operator, that'd be a massive play in and of itself. And that's what he's going to do, too. It was a great read from Bugs right on top of that TP. And now finds the Operator. That's massive for the defensive side of things. So he's just going to hold on to this at this point in time. If he peeks it, there's really nothing he can do to stop the Spike's explosion here.
Spike will tick away. The Sussy players will take the round. Good pickup again out of Bugs, holding on to that Operator for his squad, and becomes very imperative here, especially with the economic position that Akron now finds themselves in. Looks like they're also going to go ahead, call a timeout here, even though they have the lead, which is very interesting, but probably a well-placed timeout as well, because they don't want this round that just happened to turn into multiple, especially with their economic positioning.
I like this. A disruption to the pace that the Sussy players have sort of put up for themselves. Gives them a lot of time to, you know, stretch out, think about the plays that Sussy players were making and how they have been working, and potentially how to overcome them in these upcoming rounds. Still an amazing start. Now, a sense of map that you expect to be a little bit more defender-sided, but the way that all these teams are playing, their attacks need to be so good, because any team can go on attack runs if they find a strategy that works out. That's what we saw on Lotus. So for the side of Sussy players, it's really imperative that they get these 3 rounds, because if they're finding something that works, if Akron can't shut it down, they can keep abusing that, throwing that against the wall over and over and over again. We've seen how they're able to outthink their opponents. It just can it happen here.
Entering the 10th round here. Both squads really well positioned, although Akron not necessarily in the spot that they want to find themselves in when it comes to that economic, as we talked about. 4 ultimates are online for them, though, so if they could potentially utilize a couple of those, swing this round back in their favor, could really catch the Sussy players on a little bit of a heel here. But being said, the pressure over towards the A site and the lack of resistance here from the Akron Esports players, how far back they are playing is going to make for an interesting approach here. Could very well play for the retake, though, especially with the player personnel advantage. Feral popping the kunai, looking for a kill here. Instead has to back up because KDS sending in those shots. Now Akron in the spot.
A lot of util being dedicated from Sussy players to keep Akron off site. Still a 4v4 situation. Paranoia sent on site. KDS position may not be noted well enough. The Samson, him holding this crossfire, set himself up in a good position. Now it's all on Bugs again. The operator in hand. It's a time where you have to back out, but Frosty's not even going to let that happen. They're going to deny that, grab the operator to put it into their inventory, into their arsenal as they're heading into another big round.
Yeah, and as you said, the Sussy players, these rounds, very, very important for them, given the fact that they are going to be on the defensive side coming up after these next 2 rounds. Really setting the tone in that last one and could very well start to steamroll that. But that being said, Akron will have Vandals across the board in this round. Assigned to buy up in this round as opposed to the next one. Assuming they do lose this round, it might find themselves in a tough spot, but nonetheless.
They have to invest in this one. If they get around here, they could set them up good for the next one, but the same can't be said otherwise. How time goes, how fate goes. The Sussy players playing with that a bit. Definitely biding their time on this map, though. Showing a lot of respect to Akron, who they know, because they saved in the previous round, they're definitely going to have some form of weapons this round.
Sussy players gaining some decent middle control here, not necessarily deciding to make their way towards any site, but the way the middle control is set up could very well parlay that over towards the A side of things. Be met with some heavy resistance, though. This crossfire setup out of Akron could get a lot of value if used properly. Feral gets the information to go, gets lit up, though, and has to get out. Salfie will somehow get out with his life, as well as the lawnmower coming through. It's Frosty. 2 kills on the board for the side of the Sussy players to open up the site. Being said, the Hunter's Fury is dedicated onto the point, not going to be able to find anything, though. Feral on very low HP with his squad, waiting for the rotation to try and play retake, but it's going to be a tall task.
Definitely going to be a very tall task. Door isn't even broken through yet, and Feral on 8 HP. Remaining 2 players from Akron, Bugs, Atrium. We've seen them come up massive in clutch positions, but at this point in time, when the cross has already been set up, I think they might just be opting to save, and I love that decision from them. They can look for picks, they can look to lock the Sussy players down on the site, but these guns are going to be very important going into the last round. This is their chance to really send themselves out. Bugs with the big pick, though. If you find a second, no, Frosty's going to shut that down.
Wisely deciding to save there on the side of Akron. Fortunately, did not get a full save across the board there, but nonetheless, they'll enter this next round at least with a Vandal in hand. Sussy players, though, looking to tie this thing up and have all the momentum to do so, and then entering the swap could very well parlay that down the stretch of this map. Akron's still not out of it just yet.
Definitely not out of it by any means, but Sussy players, from the start, 6-1 at one point in time, they're definitely going to be very, very happy with the way these last rounds have gone. A lot in their favor at the moment. Have the Hunter's Fury, they have the Showstopper, and a lot of things to really push the pace. But Vortex gonna play ahead of it, attempt to get the kill. Not gonna be able to find it. The Showstopper, just too much power to be pressed down to them. Feral's gonna get bled through. And it feels like almost the exact same situation. The Fender lockdown is really all that's holding them back. The big ultimate's gonna come through. The plant's also gonna be down as well. And Atrium's left in a very awkward position.
Not able to get a lot of value out of that ultimate. The enemy Killjoy is going to pop the ultimate as well. Not getting much out of that either. Sussy players holding strong on the point. The exchanges will go. Checkerboard in the feed. Sussy players still holding on to the player personnel advantage, but Atrium wheeling and dealing finally gets dealt out. And that will do it. Into the swap we go. 6 apiece. You can start to see the Sussy players. They have a little bit of gusto back in the mix.
Yeah, you can say 6-6 half all you want, but It's a question of momentum. I know that Sussy players definitely feeling the momentum surge in their favor at this point in time. It's a question of how they can respond to this pressure, because obviously they've had momentum in their favor. In one map, it went in their side. The other map got sent to overtime, went back and forth for a while, went to Akron. So these teams definitely not letting their foot off the gas anytime soon. But Akron Esports have to decide exactly how they want to approach this map.
It's never going to be over until it is over with either of these squads. The 1 and 2 seed fighting tooth and nail for a spot in the grand finals here. Now Akron, ball in their court on the attacker side to really set the pace here. Sussy players, though, have the opportunity to play more towards the map's dominance. Over towards the A site we go. Both squads trying to occupy the space, but it looks like it's going to be given up towards the side of Akron. Find their way onto the point, but 5v5, it's going to become a mosh pit on this point. Door gets shut up above. Sussy players trying to make their approach on in. It's going to be Frosty taking point. Not going to be able to find any kills just yet. Noodle will find that opening frag to create some separation onto the point, trying to hit the shots to go as they continue to just go the way of Sussy players. But no, Atrium and Bugs will find 1 and 1 respectively. Bugs still lone player, last player standing, has to hit the shots. One more, but Frosty will find the kill, find the round, back and forth, but ultimately the Sussy players will take it in the pistol.
And that's massive for the Sussy players there. 6th round win in a row, and a round that they just barely held on to. That's now going to boost them into an economic advantage against Akron Esports. I like the decision from Akron Esports. They're not looking to buy up too much. Maybe a couple stingers. Wait, actually, potentially going for all stingers here. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. A Spectre and 4 stingers. They definitely want to bring it onto the B site, a place where they can rush onto the site fast. But if the Sussy players show the discipline, if they play from range, it feels like it's just going to fall into their favor. They definitely have the advantage.
Standing ahead.
Stack is disadvantaged the way of the Sussy players here. Only 2 players. Potentially shut down this assault. Vespiro not anticipated. Bugs rolling on in. We'll find the refrag to go. Frosty now the next line of defense. Finds 1, finds 2, finds the 3rd. And they all drop 1 by 1. Akron falls. And you can see the Sussy players are not going to let them forget what just happened in that round.
No, that was beautiful. And they're not going to forget it for a while here, because now Akron Esports, they have 0 economy. They can't repeat that again, especially against a composition that can start boosting their previous buy into a solid bonus that they're favored to convert. A couple sheriffs on the side of Akron, but on the side of the Sussy players, definitely a wide variety of guns, but a lot of guns that can do some serious damage. I'm looking at Frosty right now, 15 kills on the board, and been a monster so far with these spray weapons.
Just looking to continue to keep the pressure applied here. Sussy players have them right where they want them in terms of the economy as well. Akron find themselves in between a rock and a hard place, especially after that buy-up. Now trying to figure out where exactly they want to go. Again, applying that pressure mid, trying to gain semblance of control on the map. Also have a player stationed over towards that A site. Could very well go mid to A once again. That looks to be the ploy.
Positioning so interesting. KDS has set himself out in wine. Positioning on site's also very awkward too. You don't expect Shamson to be coming from this angle. The paranoia is so good. It's gonna blind out everybody. It's gonna find 2. The swing comes through as well. Finds 3. KDS collapses in. Oh my god, that was masterful from the side of the Sussy players.
Wow. Flawless round out of them, and I mean, that was perfect. Again, the paranoia comes out. Shamson able to get the spray transfer for 3. The rest of his teammates will come in kind, and my goodness, Akron, they really didn't have a response for that, but now entering the next round will have a response in terms of the heavy artillery here. Vandals across the board. The side of Sussy players gonna bring the action as well. First even-keeled footing on this side of the half.
It's a very important round for Akron Esports. If they want to hold on to this series, I mean, they've made comebacks before, but in a map that's already shifting in their favor, a position that's already been somewhat compromised, what can you do? Farrell gets a trade, but it costs the life of 1 player. 4v4 situation still, even though Noodle still ticked very low.
Gonna grant them that map control over towards mid, but given the fact that they're heading over towards B on the side of the Sussy players, it's really interesting because, again, once they have that middle control, Akron has proven time and time again that they're gonna make an A hit. It's interesting to see them not just flush completely over towards the A site right after that exchange, and Bugs will find the kill to go on to Shamson. Now finds an opening into this A site.
Frosty's so good when you put him in these positions. Has Recon Bolt. Gonna opt to swing it first, but gonna get poked out by Farrell. Now it's all in the back of KDS. He's pressed up, but it's not to a position that's gonna help him. That knife feels like the nail in the coffin. Recon darts being shot out as well. Anytime he tries to poke this angle, I mean, spray can come through, both through the wall. Nobody looking to flank him just yet. He still wants to hang in this one. Still wants to see if he can find even one kill. Would be big to sort of disrupt the Akron esports economy however he can.
Just realistically, not a lot that you can do there in that spot if you are him. Akron preventing the snowball, now getting a little bit of momentum back in this. Very much needed, but still. Look towards the Sussy players. They definitely have the momentum in terms of the pendulum. It is still definitely pointed in their direction. Be able to buy up full in this round, but if you lose this round, then it starts to become a little bit dicey again with the economy.
Now I'm looking towards this op duel down mid. Atrim versus Vesperl. Two players known, or Bugs actually is going to take the gun. Almost head clipped off for Vorts. For now, it's just slow paced. I think they realize they got to respect the op because we have an op on both sides now.
Op v op, and neither side is going to contest it. Instead, it's going to be that smoke going down to completely segment off the middle point. And now an interesting look from Akron. We haven't seen them do just a straight-on A hit, I don't think, up until this point. Still trying to gain that middle control, despite the fact that the op is in play here, and not able to get any kills going the way of the op on the side of Sussy players. Very far pushed up, though, into this middle point. Right around the corner are two players from the Sussy players. Back and forth we go in the feed, but KDS is still alive. 2 kills for him, granted the way of Sussy players, and now player personnel as well going their way. It's the A push. It's reconsidered.
You got to reconsider at this point. KDS's positioning in tree was just so scary. And now Selfie, desperate for a sign of information, a glimpse of another player, or maybe even some util to figure out where these players are going, but he's not gonna be able to find it. Vesperl's gonna get flashed up. The recon bolt is there, but just barely misses him as well. This is gonna be big. A lot of information gained on the side of him. Swing comes through. Not gonna be able to find somebody just yet. I think that shot actually hit though. A lot of damage done on the side of one of the players.
13 seconds left on the board for Akron to make this push into this point, but it's not going to matter as the simultaneous kills go. The Sussy players will respond with another round on the board, still holding on to that lead. Looking to channel it down the stretch here as it's currently 7-10. Favor of the Sussy players, and their economy looking great on the side of Akron. They're going to need this round because, again, it starts to get a little bit concerning if they don't pick it up.
Yeah, definitely concerning, but as you know, anything can happen. We've seen a 9-3 curse technically. I mean, we sort of waved it off, but we've seen that technically happen already. So
yeah.
At this point in time, it's gonna be all craziness, and it's gonna be crazy as ADS just goes straight in. Oh my gosh, ADS, what? You should not be alive right now, but somehow, by some grace, you are. And now
Raze doing Raze things, I guess you could say there. 2 kills going their way, and Sussy players positioned perfectly.
That's just like unprecedented aggression. Like, you don't expect that if you're Akron. You've seen some slow holds all these rounds, and just one of the rounds is just coming straight at you. There's nothing you can do. You have the lockdown, but in this round, you don't even want to use it. Because if you use the lockdown here, it's invested into a 2v5. It's almost more beneficial for them to just wait out the entire time. Maybe try to go for a couple picks, but they're in such an awkward position, both economically and within the round.
Yeah, no, they're just going to find themselves back in spawn, and at this point, you have to question whether they're going to consider maybe going for the save here. Again, talking about their economy in the next round, it's not going to look that great, so having maybe the Vandals in the hands could help. Looks like with that spike in hand, 30 seconds left, they are not having any urgency whatsoever. will be going for the save. You got Atrium watching one angle. This could just be the round, the way it's going to unfold. But still, can we talk about KDS? Because that was ridiculous.
Like, you'd get hit by the paranoia, right? You'd think, like, oh, that's the counter. But at the same time, he just gets hit with the paranoia. I think he messed up his satchel, too, or intentionally falls down and then just finds two heads out of nowhere. Obviously, the Hunter's Fury was there to sort of back him up on the defensive side. And obviously, swings came through from Noodle, from the rest of his team. But at the same time, if you're just sending yourself at the other team, sort of making yourself your own grenade. Yeah, I mean,
that's one way to put it.
Like, what can you do?
Yeah, no, and now Akron, again, having to call that timeout. Luckily did make it out of the round with 2 Vandals, but still the economic peril that they find themselves in is not necessarily anything that you want to be having to write home about. But still, Sussy players in the driver's seat, 7-11 here. 2 more rounds separating them from a berth in the grand finals here. Akron Zips on the cusp of potentially having to face one of those OSU teams down in the loser semis. And it does look like they would be facing OSU Scarlet based on what I'm seeing on my end. So a lot riding on these next 2 rounds, and rounds that could potentially follow. That's a that's a unit right there.
And Akron Esports, they haven't even gone up against OSU Scarlet. They've only faced off against OSU Gray. And in that match, it was definitely a close one, to say the least. So they don't want to be put down to the losers bracket. They don't want the fate not in their hands. They want to lock themselves a position into the grand finals, however it may be. But at this point in time, 2 rounds. That's all it is to separate Sussy players from victory here. And obviously, a save, but it's more of a half buy here. It's such an awkward position for Akron Esports.
Yeah, and realistically speaking, we've seen them make it in to that overtime before. It feels so weird. It's a weird spot that they find themselves in, and it feels like they're half in, half out, but still into this A site we go, trying to gain some sort of map control here. 2 players will be lying in wait for them. The suppression will come in, completely nullifying any utility whatsoever. And when you have Farrell popping the kunai, that's going to be huge. But Shamson will come up even bigger. 3 kills, 4 kills on the board. And that could just about do it. Bugs, the last player standing in over towards Sussy player's spawn. And this is potentially the game. Here and now, unless he can find an opening and potentially clutch this out. 1v4 turns into a 1v3. Round the corners, Noodle. No. Noodle calls the round. And again, we go back to that buy. It's just gonna put them in a weird spot in this round that they could have had Vandals in. Now they're just not going to have the full buy.
And Akron obviously thought it through and just came to consideration that, yes, this is the best thing for their game. They had so much time to consider what their buy would be on that previous round. So they basically locked in what their buy is going to be on next round. And they locked in their strategy, too. They used the No Command last round. They used the Blade Storm last round, which leaves the only ultimates online just going to be the From the Shadows and the Lockdown. It's all in the back with sort of Bugs and how he puts together a good lockdown. That's the only thing that can force Sussy players off site, disrupt this momentum that they've already built up.
It's very interesting to see Sussy players not really playing over towards this B point, and none of them are going to be caught in this Killjoy ultimate here. Espiral trying to gain some information before it does pop online. Not going to be granted any as he does get out of there alive, and will be able to find a kill as well to open the round. Farrell drops, and that is desperate for Akron.
The only thing in the favor of Akron, they have the site, they have the plant down, but it's all about holding on. It's all about the position that they're setting up. It's still the operator looking them down, and Paranoia is going to come through. That's going to be able to buy a bit of time, but KDS, not one to hold back, has a showstopper in hand. That's going to really chunk down one of the players on site. Noodle's there for the trade too. Pushing on, blitzing the side, but Akron's going to be the one who's coming up with these picks. This is massive from Akron. Atrium from a different angle. The off angle is going to clean up. And look at him. In that moment.
Huge from Akron on a round that they did not have the artillery that they wanted. they still come up big. And partner, we've seen this happen before. Might be a little bit of deja vu because we have seen Akron claw their way back into these things. It is never over until it is over. When you are playing against the Akron Zips, Sussy players cannot get comfortable in their spot whatsoever. They have to be on their toes.
I mean, just thinking now, you have to put up 4 rounds if you're Akron, but effectively, they've done this before. They've been in this situation. It's on the decider map, so I think a little bit more of a disadvantage, especially as still a lot of economy to go for the Sussy players. It's going to be a while before Bank is completely broken. And a bit of Odin spam to try and chunk together some damage, but very, very slow from Akron Esports going out, prioritizing this mid control.
Spiral holding this angle, just waiting for someone to peek him. It's an ego angle by all accounts. You don't need to hold up this close. Just let them come to you. They're not going to be coming to you at all. Akron really trying for this middle control. They are going to be granted it. Sussy players not all too worried about mid. Instead, looking for either A or B, not wanting to be the team that makes the first mistake here. Either which way you cut it, first team that makes the mistake could be the team that loses out in this round, and this round is very important for both sides of the equation. Shamson with the first, but Alfie will be able to exchange on. Noodle will find another. Sussy players with the player personnel advantage, trying to make the push in still is Akron. It's going to be a halfway thwarted approach. Frosty lurking in from above. Farrell right around the corner. He's locked in. He's ready to go. Salfie, you're not getting through unless you find that kill. Still alive as Bugs and Salfie find 1 apiece. Even it out to 2. Spike will go down.
2v2 situation. Utility makes KDS noted now. A 1v2 Vesperil. He's been in these shoes, but he doesn't know these players are positioned. They're both on Gen. It's such an awkward position, and it's going to take him off guard. And Akron Zips are going to put themselves up to 9, give themselves a chance to compete here.
There is definitely a buffer as well economically from the side of Sussy players now, because they're not going to have all of the guns that they potentially are going to want in the mix of this. Of course, you're going to see those light buys as well, just to make sure that, you know, you have everything potentially that you can across the board here. You have to make sure that all of your players are armed and ready to go into this round. So you're going to see some light shields, still very, very manageable. Akron, though, they have to keep the pressure applied. They cannot let up.
Tour de Force out towards mid. KDS actually going to be the first player to strike. That's a different play. Oh my gosh.
And it finally pays off for Frosty.
I mean, he's experienced with the spam position. He's experienced with putting the pressure on Akron Zips. And now, sort of left with a lot of consideration here. From the shadows is going to pull Frosty back a tiny, tiny bit. But are they going to execute off it? Yes, it looks like Bugs is going to be pushing up here. The timing is definitely very awkward, especially when you're in a position where the paranoia comes through. Bugs is going to swing. Burst is going to swing. It's 3v3 situation, colorblind.
KDS now next line of defense, trying to come in through the main garage, is going to be tagged up ever so slightly, not going to check the right corner. Vespiro will find 1 to even it out once again. Vespiro with another, looking for the third, and Vespiro with 3 calls game and sends the Sussy players into the grand finals.
And look at the energy from the Sussy players. Handshakes all around. That one definitely cut a little bit closer than they expected, but all love all around. Sussy players, congratulations. They've made it to the grand finals, and they will be facing off against the winner of Akron Esports, who they just went up against, and OSU Scarlet.
That is going to be a fantastic matchup in the losers finals. Either of those teams, of course, we talked about it very, very briefly. OSU Scarlet is a team that Akron has not played just yet, but has played Sussy players, and they have some revenge on their mind, given the fact that Sussy players was the team to push them into that lower bracket. That's going to be a fantastic matchup down there. Super excited, but you love to see the sportsmanship first and foremost between these teams. Everybody going in for the fist bumps. You absolutely love to see it, War.
I mean, I think it's all love between these teams. Obviously, there's a bit of, you know, rivalry. They're facing off against each other, both in the game and at the LAN Center in Ohio, but all love between the teams. At the end of the day, they both know they're playing And they both know that they both still have a chance within this tournament, even though Akron gets bumped down to lowers. I mean, we know how dominant they are. We know that they're definitely expected to win the matchup in the lowers, but it's definitely not decided by any means.
Yeah, no, and it's just, you cannot ask for more out the side of the Sussy players there, and rightfully so. They're going to plant themselves in to the grand finals. And I do believe that we have an interview here set up and ready to go with Shamson. A matter of moments. Shamson, hey, how you guys feeling? You guys just punched your tickets into the grand finals.
Hey, was that a good series? Did you guys like that?
Man, you guys kept us on our toes over here. It was fantastic.
That was it was crazy. I'm not gonna lie, very stressful, but that's why we play Valorant. So I've been playing for like 3 years, but it's been crazy. So
I love that. I love how you say that's why we play Valorant, because at the end of the day, it is a team sport. Now, talk to me a bit about your team. What sort of brought you guys together, and how are you guys competing at this level right now? Because it feels amazing.
So I met one of my teammates, Frosty. We went to the same college and played collegiate together, and then everyone else, I met them through playing at like one other LAN in Chicago with one other guy, and then 2 of them are just new teammates. But we've really bonded together within like 6 weeks. We've been scrimming a ton. We know how good we are. Like we've all hit the top rank. So we know what we're doing. But yeah, it's been really fun. And I love the people watching too. Like my girlfriend's watching right now. We have some I stream. I have some viewers watching. Mom and dad are watching. So it's really fun to just play good in front of them. They give you motivation and stuff. So I love clutching up and stuff, doing all that. But yeah.
Yeah, no, you were doing plenty of clutching up on your end of things, but talk to me a little bit about the mental regain that you guys potentially had to go through after going down 19-17, losing that second map, which was an all-out battle fest. I mean, what was that like after that map, obviously regaining and taking this map after?
Oh, I mean, okay, I knew we were better than these guys. Even if we lost in OT, we were up, and I was telling the guys, I was like, don't let being up mean that like we've won the game, and that's the mentality that I carried into the next game. And we made sure that we didn't just let them capitalize on our mistakes. We made sure to make no mistakes. And yeah, that's basically the mentality that you got to have. You can't stop trying or like playing your game, being consistent throughout the rounds until you actually win. So.
And tell me about specifically you in those clutch situations. What sort of enables you? Because I think we've seen all sorts of clutches from you, whether it be a spray transfer that just like shouldn't be working out, but you're just like so much better and you hit your shot, or just like crazy plays onto a site, blitzing the other team and taking them by force. I mean, talk to me about those situations. How does your team enable you, or how did you yourself get that good?
Well, it's just playing this game like every day, getting as many hours as I can get in with balancing other stuff going on. And I just live for those moments, like if you're in that situation, it's a little nerve wracking, but like, my adrenaline's just going, and I just want to make things happen for like the audience and entertain you guys and make sure that you guys are watching a good match. So I live for those moments. I like to prove who I am as a player. And yeah, like it's just, you really just got to live for the moment and just play it. Can't be scared. It's just a video game at the end of the day, and like as long as you have fun, that's the main thing. And yeah.
Well, man, I gotta say, you definitely entertained all of us in the chat from the casting desk as well. You put on an absolute show. Congratulations, you guys are in the grand final. Secured yourself a top 2 placement. Thank you so much for the interview. We hope to see you guys later on in the show, and we'll be seeing you guys later on in the show. But we're gonna go ahead and send it for the time being to a very quick break. Do not go anywhere, though, because the losers finals are still up, and we gotta see who's gonna be playing these guys.